I call this meeting to order January 13th, 2026. Would you join me in the flag salute?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would Pastor Mark Chambers come forward and lead us in a prayer?
Good evening, everyone. Please join me in prayer. Holy Father, as we start this new year of 2026, we have a lot to look forward to as we, the city of Pittsburgh, will celebrate our 150th birthday. And we've come a long ways from the sounds and sights of yesteryears to modern days of growing and making our home city even greater for the years to come. We give thanks for all the souls of the past that guided it with a vision back then, and to our current leaders and citizens working together to keep Pittsburgh a city of prosperity and a place that we are proud to call home. Continue to bless Pittsburgh. Father, we ask you to continue to bless our city, our elected and appointed leaders, our fire and police and all employees who with dedication keep our needs and safety taken care of. Father, we want to pray for our new fire chief, Jack Spencer, and our new park director, Chris Lloyd, and to bless their leadership for the future of Pittsburgh. Father, we pray for the family members of those who have lost their loved one this past Friday in a tragic situation, that you will give strength and comfort, and to all the first responders who are involved in the investigation. We also ask prayers for the suspect and his family during this tragic time. Father, bless our nation to work in peace and harmony. Bless our leaders and all citizens of our great nation as we prepare to celebrate 250 years of freedom. And bless this meeting tonight, and may your Holy Spirit guide all things that are said and decided on tonight. We ask these things in your holy name, whom we trust. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Mark. All right, moving into public input. Darren, would you...
A couple of people just got mentioned. If Captain Jack Spencer, or Chief Jack Spencer, sorry, that was his whole title, and Chris Lloyd are two of our newest department heads, so I thought we'd introduce them publicly and see if they wanted to say anything. Speech.
I've been with the city for 20 years now. I'm just glad to get a new position and help continue my support with the city. So thank you.
And I just recently, obviously, been promoted. Retired from Washington D.C. and really happy to be here. And just hoping to help grow the community and the fire department and keep everybody safe.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys. Thanks.
So, moving on into public input, we're going. Hold on a minute. Hold on a minute, Ralph. I know a lot of you are probably here to talk about taxes, and I've reached out to. Hold on a minute, Ralph. I reached out to County Treasurer Joe Grizzolano. I want him to come and try to explain what happened, and then he's going to be followed by Darren Hall and explain what happened and how. And it's going to be civil to everyone out there. There's something that we need to work on, how we fix it, so let's work together. All right,
Good evening. Thank you. Joe Grizzolano, 612 Villa Drive. I'm the Crawford County Treasurer. Good evening, Commissioners, Mayor. First of all, before I get started, I know how difficult it is to put your name on the line and run for public office, and I commend you all for stepping forward to serve your community, and I think all of you do an outstanding job for the citizens of Pittsburgh. I also know there's people out in the audience that have held public office in the past, and some of them I've got to work with. And I appreciate the work that they've done also. I'm here tonight as the county treasurer, and I was first elected county treasurer in 2004. I took office in 2005. When I went to my first conference of the Kansas County Treasurers Association, when we had to stand up and introduce ourselves, and there was a county treasurer there from Saline County. His name was Keith Lilly. Keith Lilly had been the county treasurer in Saline County for over 50 years. And when we had our first break, I went over to Keith to, kind of shake hands with him and introduce myself to him. And he said, Joe, I'll tell you something. Two things. If you want to stay in office, do your job, which I try to do, and keep your name out of the paper. So, Dustin, I'm probably breaking the second rule of that advice tonight. But Chuck did come over and meet with me yesterday and just kind of asked me what the ramifications would be on lowering your budget at this point for the current year. And I don't want to, well, the county treasurer collects and distributes tax dollars. That's our job. I don't set budgets. I don't calculate the mill levies. I don't work with assessed value. That's all done by different departments. And they certify, the county clerk certifies the tax roll to me on November 1st. And we try to print tax statements this year. We were delayed by about 5 days because we had a software issue that we were waiting on our software vendor to get programming to fix that. So our tax statements were about 5 days later normally than I like to get them out. But we did, like I say, we just collect and distribute tax dollars. When you guys set your budget, and when the county sets our budget, when any taxing entity sets their budgets, it's done in the summertime, and your budget is a dollar amount, okay? Just like your budget at home. It's not a tax rate, it's a dollar amount. So I'm sure that you all, had several work sessions. You cussed and discussed and sweated and probably lost some hours of sleep during this time. But the final decision was you came up with the tax dollar amount that you needed to provide the services to the citizens of our community that you thought were necessary. That dollar amount was sent to the county clerk to certify those tax rolls to the state, and then on November 1st, those are transferred to the county treasurer for collection. Unfortunately, this year, between the time that our county clerk sent out preliminary assessed values in June and final assessed values in October, those assessed values changed. And to raise the same amount of tax revenue that was requested, it caused the mill levy to go up, which nobody likes the mill levy to go up. But the mill levy is just a calculation. It's still the tax dollars that we're still collecting, the same amount of tax dollars that you all set in your budget. And that's what we'll try to collect and distribute to you. So, excuse me. There's nothing nefarious going on here. There's not going to be a windfall of tax dollars that we're going to get and send back out. It's the same amount of tax dollars that were budgeted. Our office makes tax distributions 4 times a year. As I say, we start the collection on November 1st. We then collect taxes through the end of the year, December 31st, and then that first distribution is on January 20th, which is next Tuesday, a week from today. That's the largest distribution of the year. This year, as in normal years, we've collected a little over 56% of our total tax roll that will be distributed to all the taxing entities. To give you an example from last year, a comparison, last year, the first distribution was about 56.3%. This year, we're a little under 56.1%. So it's basically the same amount of percentage-wise of the total tax roll that we'll be distributing. we have, I'm going countywide now. Countywide, we send tax statements on 28,465 tax bills are what we send out. Of those 28,645, I'm sorry. Of those 28,645 tax bills, about 24,400 are real estate, and about 4,250 of them are personal property tax statements. The city of Pittsburgh is about, on the real estate, it's about 9,132 parcels of real estate in Pittsburgh that we send tax statements, or actually that's parcels of real estate in Pittsburgh, so it's about 37.5%. So I'm doing a quick extrapolation. I have no idea if this is correct, but I'm gonna make the assumption, which is probably not too smart of me, but if the personal property tax statements are about 37.5% of the total that we have, then there'd be about 1,600 personal property tax statements. Payment under protest, people can protest their taxes if they think the value's wrong. If they, for whatever reason, they decide they can pay the taxes under protest. Last year, as a comparison, through the first half, tax collections, we had 95 parcels that were paid under protest. This year we have 101. So it's, again, in my opinion, it's basically the same. It hasn't changed. Now, if I don't have a good analogy for lowering your budget in the middle of a tax year. So, except that this is the only thing I can think of, and I don't know how good it is, but it's the only thing I can think of. It's like we have a large, very large cargo ship that's loaded with freight. And we're going down a narrow passage to our destination, and we're unloading freight along the way. So we're 60% of the way down to that destination, and now you're not asking the freighter to make a course correction. You're asking the freighter to turn around, come back to the dock, unload all the freight, load back all the freight but a little bit, and then take back off and deliver it again. If we try to start over from scratch, which that's what we would be doing, if your budget is reduced in the current tax year, then we have to go back and start over from step one in our process. Our county clerk will have to recertify everything. She'll have to pass it to the county treasurer for us to generate tax statements and send tax bills out again. We will be, I don't know the cost of this, and the reason that I say that is because we are so far through the process now that it will take programming from our software vendor to make this work. It's not hit a couple of buttons, restart the system, and it changes everything. That's not the way it works because when everything is certified, it's frozen. Everything stops. They stop doing maintenance. The appraiser's office stops doing maintenance as properties sell, as splits are made, as combinations are made. At the end of September, nothing has changed until after tax statements are all done. Then they start doing maintenance on those parcels again because the county appraiser has to send out change of value notices for 2026 by March 1st of this year. They're already working on that. So it's not stagnant. This is something that changes all the time. And that's why I say I don't know what the cost will be because it'll be up to we'll have to work with our tax software vendor to get that done. And we've contacted the vendor, and you have to send in a call request, and they'll get back with you. Well, they haven't got back with our county clerk yet to give some type of an estimate on how this is going to be. So I'm not, and I don't want to sound like I'm up here saying I don't want to do extra work. That's not the issue. I have a job to do, and I'll do the job to the best of my ability. I always try to do the job to my best ability, but that's the way it does. That's the way it works. So if this is done, and we'll only talk about the city of Pittsburgh now, not the entire county. But if this is done at this time, then we would have, all those tax statements would have to be redone. We would have to resend out all those tax statements. There's going to be a change in all of them. They're all going to reduce a little bit. The majority of them are going to be by a few dollars. $2, $3, $5, $7, something like that. There's going to be a few more that will be higher than that. But if I don't know what to do with those overpayments, if we decide to do refund checks one thing I forgot to say, of our total tax statements that we sent out, over 11,500 of them are paid in full. So those are the ones I'm talking about now. Those ones that are paid in full, they will have overpaid. So there'll be an overpayment that has to be dealt with somehow. For us to do refund checks, again, we have a hybrid system. Our accounting software is Encode, a Tyler product, I think probably the same product the city of Pittsburgh uses. Our tax software is called Computer Information Concepts, CIC. It's a totally different system. The systems don't talk to each other. So we have to do journal entries when we do tax distributions from one software to the other software and to push out the tax distributions. So to do refund checks, there's no automatic way to do. For us to do a check would be, it wouldn't be handwriting a check because we do enter them into the system. But for everybody that we would do a refund check for, it would have to be entered into the system, each check individually. The taxpayer's name, their address, the amount of the refund, and then we would have to mail those out. I'm not going to make the decision on what the amount would be before we would do refunds. That would be a decision that the governing body would have to make. To me, that's not my decision to make. But there will be errors made. It's going to be difficult to balance when everything's redone, and there will be errors made. That's, just I want you all to understand. That's just the way that's how software works. It doesn't work perfect when there's changes made to it. And every time our software has an update on our tax administration, we always have issues. That's kind of why we had an issue on printing the statements this year. They made an update to the system, and then it caused us to be out of balance for 5 days until they could find it and fix that. I don't want to ramble on forever. I think that's about all I have. Does anybody have questions for me, or I can? I'll stick around. If you've got a question, you can call me back up.
Joe, people called me and told me to watch the county commission meeting, and I tuned in and watched it. And there was a number of like 700,000 countywide, I guess.
Well, I think 700,000 is what is the request that the county would make to reduce their budget. Yes.
Is there a number the city is?
The city, if it would be a little over $1 million, if you're trying to take your mill levy back to what it was last year, it's a little over $1 million. I think it's about $210,000 round. It's about $210,000 out of your budget. Now, so what's the best way to fix it? This is my opinion. It's a decision you all are going to have to make. To me, the best way to fix it is the same with the county. I mean, there's not $700,000 in our budget. They can cut out of the budget. There's just no way, in my opinion. That's not going to be my decision to make. But they had 10 or 12 work sessions to try to come up with the amount of dollars that were needed to fund the operation, and that's what they came up with. In this instance, in your budget, $210,000, it sounds like simple. Let's just cut it and be done with it. To me, you would be better off to monitor expenses quarterly, monthly, whatever, and next year, reduce the revenue that you're needed, the tax revenue that you're needed, so that the tax dollars come down and the tax levy goes down. To me, that's the way to fix it, because you determined the dollars that you needed for this year. And I would think that's how you need those dollars.
Joe, are we able to carry over that 210,000 if that's what the number is?
Sure, you can carry over more than that, and that would give you a starting point where not as many tax dollars would be needed yet next year. Very good point.
Joe, what's the window for doing that for next year? How's that look as far as?
It'll be when you're doing your budget, in the summertime,
As
yes.
the start of the annual workload?
Absolutely.
It's just part of the budget process.
But I would say, as far as monitoring expenses, it's something that you need to be doing, now, and I'm sure you all
And
are.
I think Chuck, one reason Chuck asked me to say something, I think it's important to know that Joe's group followed the process. This is the process. It's this awkward. There's a lot of development in Pittsburgh right now, so there's a lot of changing hands. And, for instance, what we went through with the hospital. It was, how often does the hospital sell? I guess to some people it feels like it sells a lot, but, it's only sold a couple of times. When it sold, it was in a tax status. And so we had to go through all of our working papers that we got from the county in June and look at that number, because last year that number for property that changed use was a couple of $100,000. Well, this year it was 16 million. So we had to go back to the county and say, okay, what's in that 16 million? And of course, 14 plus was just the hospital. So we went ahead, if you remember, the budget and took that out. The rest of it was other property that was changing hands.
There's a lot of projects.
And there's a
going on.
lot of it, so I think that's where it got caught, but we submitted ours when we always do. You kept the mill rate at the same rate. Every year, once we turn our final budget in and you adopt it, it always changes, because the process isn't to keep the mill the same, it's to keep the tax dollars the same. In this case, the assessed valuation went down because so many things changed hands that it was over a mill increase. But I want to make sure, because I've talked to Joe about it for a week, and he keeps sounding like he's blaming himself, and I'm like, that is the process. This year it really jumped up, because usually our mill changes about a 0.1% or something, but this year it changed over a mill, and that's, I think, what got everybody's attention.
And I don't, like I said, I don't deal with assessed valuations. I don't deal, my office doesn't deal with mill levies. It's everything is handed over to us, and we're charged with collection and distribution.
But there's no chance at the end for the county to come back and say, hey, now we're gonna send your budget to the state in November or December. By the way, to get to the tax dollars that you wanted, your mill went up 1.15. Would you wanna cut $200,000 or $210,000 out of to keep it even? That's not in the process. So that's what I think, and my household was the same. We opened it up, my wife's like, you raised the mill a mill and a half? And I'm like, I don't recall those meetings. But that's what happened, and I think that's what got us here. To Joe's point on we can save the money, but there's no way for the city to refund $210,000 any more than, I don't know that we could do it at all. You would have to do that. But it does scream that the process
You
has.
said there were 9,132 taxable properties to be taxed.
Yes.
That comes to.
That's parcels in Pittsburgh.
About $21 on the average. You would have to send, and by the time your cost to send out $21 would be $21.
Some of them are gonna be a lot less than $21. Yes.
That's the.
And by the way, I don't know where that money is gonna come from, because it's the same way to redo tax statements. I don't have the money in my budget to do it. I make a budget request just like the department heads do here, and I try to keep it as lean as possible, because I try to be responsible to the public also. I'm elected also. So there's no extra money in my budget. I've come from somewhere else over there.
Well, like I said, and I'm sure we all have had calls about this, what we need to do, and that's why I wanted you and Darren try to explain to people that hasn't listened to this or hasn't watched a county commission meeting when all this happened, like, who has the answer, you know?
Well, it's property taxes are never fun. What I always tell, I always say I'm the least popular person in Crawford County most of the year, but we do the best job we can, and that's we try to do that. But
Well, I appreciate
Mayor, I really appreciate you calling me up and coming to meet with me yesterday. It helps when, I think the more discussions we have, the more communication we have, makes things better. So I really appreciate that.
Well, thank you for coming, Joe, and I don't know if you want to stick around a little bit.
I will, yes.
Because there's people from the
Sure.
public's gonna come up and have questions, and
Absolutely.
you two are the best ones to answer
Thank
those
you.
questions. Now, I'll open it up to anyone else that wants to come up and talk about taxes.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Ralph George, 2301 North Rouse, Pittsburg, Kansas. My topic tonight's going to be on Pittsburg pride. And what I'm talking about that is our school districts that we have, USD 250, which is Pittsburg Senior High and Cogan. And they've been around a long time. As a matter of fact, Pittsburg established its first school in 1877, the first one. The college established in 1903, that's 36 years difference. And then Cogan, they started their high school in 1936. And I know that PSU, they get a lot of hoopla on everything they do. And on the South Water Tower, they've got their names and stuff like that and their mascot on that water tower. And what I would like to see is the Pittsburgh Dragon and the Cogan Panther on the North Water Tower. I think that's important. You five people can get that done. And that's the respect out of all the students that we have that goes through that school system. And through K through 12 is the foundation that these universities are built on. They're the ones that does the hard work to give the people to the college to bring them on. And I think we need to show our community pride, or Pittsburgh pride, for our schools that we have here today. And I'd like to make a request that we put their insignias on that water tower. It's community pride, public pride. And I just believe in that. Darren, I'm sorry to hear about your brother. I know how it feels. I lost one.
Thanks, Ralph.
One more thing I've got, I'd like to see the city turn out all the payroll and all the salary people and all the hourly people once a year. Put it out and show the people what's going on and who they are and who gets paid. And that way they can have a better view of why we pay taxes. And I think that would help, and I think there's a lot of concern. We used to do that, but it stopped for quite a few years. And I'd like to see that happen again. Thank you.
Thank you, Ralph.
Thanks, Ralph.
Anybody else that want to come up with public input?
Mr. Benner, 1508 Benner Court. Good evening, City Commissioners. Today is January 13th, about 2 weeks into 2026. Which of the budget books is the administration going to use this year? It is time for the question to be finally answered so everyone can know the cost to the taxpayer. To recap why this is important, let's review that on July 22nd, 2025, the City Manager presented the 2026 budget to the Commission. That night, the first words regarding the budget book to the governing body, the books had to be returned due to the changes needing to be made. A new version of the budget was being printed and compiled, while a discussion of the 5-year forecast was given. So to make it easy to follow about the books, in July the number 1 book was taken back, the number 2 book was given to the Commissioners to study prior to the next meeting. Although it was to have been August 12th on the agenda, it never occurred on that date for the Commissioners to have a discussion about the 2026 budget. The budget hearing was to be held September 9th. And the day after the July 22nd meeting, the budget and 5-year forecast were to be put on the website for the public to view. The presentation of the 2026 budget was given by City Manager Darren Hall. He began by reading the City Manager's budget message, which was almost 2 pages long, detailing funds and services and projects. It was stated in the first paragraph that the submitted budget was $74,090,951. Darren said it should be $74,726,135, which would be corrected. That is a difference of $615,184. The financial consultant stated that there is no budget that's created to spend $74 million. Seems to be a conflicting message. The book's numbers have not been consistent since May. Again, how does that happen? Will the new financial management system be ready for the next year's budget process? If not, why not? In comparing numbers between the second and third books, I found the following discrepancies. Assessed valuations, tax levies, parks and recreation positions, FTE citywide personnel totals, reserves for the general fund and public utility fund, resources with graphs and percentages, property tax levy dollars, property tax table, expenditures with graphs and percentages, allocation by purpose percentages don't match and no dollar amounts listed, all departments page with both revenues and expenditures, the ad valorem page of assessed valuations, neighborhood revitalization and net assessed valuations, collected ad valorem tax dollars, current delinquent tax dollars and percentages, the worksheet for state on assessed valuation, and the 5-year forecast must be included in this list. Many times throughout the budget discussion, it was stated that the expenditures lines are accurate and the personnel statement is accurate. That evening, it was admitted that there were errors that have since been corrected. Repeatedly, they said all corrections have already been made. Well, that statement cannot be true. According to the budget hearing discussion on September 9th, the city manager stated the city wanted to put the most accurate submitted budget on the website for people to look at for 6 weeks. Time after time has been said there's been no mill rate increase since 2018. Well, that statement can be debated. The Crawford County Clerk published in the Morning Sun that the 2025 valuation for the 2026 mill rate is 52.006 and the levies are $179,626,310. How do you account for these new numbers, which are quite different than the City of Pittsburgh numbers? It seems the second and third budget books are similar, yet different. Darren J., Margie, and the former mayor wanted us to believe the only pages that need to be reviewed and approved are the last 2 pages, which are the notice of budget hearing for the 2026 year and the revenue neutral rate numbers, and the only totals that are the ones that go to the state. The details that have been published in the budget books for years do have meaning and importance. You can't get totals for funds and expenditures, revenues, mill rates, levies, and valuations without adding numbers together to equal a sum total. It is a complex document created with much effort and appreciated for the opportunity to have it on the city website for everyone to review. This is about accountability and transparency. It is about knowing how tax dollars will be spent or have been spent and having trust in those numbers. Now is the time to make this budget right in all categories. Even if the state does not deem it necessary, it is needed at the local level and for future examination. Thank you.
Thank you, Kristen.
Good evening. My name is Nira Garcia. I am the PHS head coach for girls soccer team in Pittsburgh High School. I'm here today not only as a coach, but as a player myself who grew up in Pittsburgh, Kansas, playing soccer. And I know I now work with girls. This is my 3rd year working and coaching with girls Pittsburgh High School. This is my 1st year coaching youth soccer girls, which we have struggled having a place and space to practice and to also have games. Soccer has been part of my life for many years back in 2016 when I played here as a teenager, and still till this day we practice and complete wherever we are allowed to feel that they're given to us temporary, borrowed or shared. We are grateful for any available space we could get, but it is not consistent place that we feel that is safe and that we can have to practice and feel that is truly ours. 10 years of my experience, I'm still seeing those challenges continue, only now with even more teams, youth especially, trying to find space, and especially since the soccer community is growing. As a player and as a coach, I see this issue in different perspectives. Teams are having to move from one field to another depending on daylight or field conditions. Sometimes we also have to share small areas with multiple teams or people, limiting what we can do for players and players' development. Again, we are grateful for Pitt State, Parks and Rec, and churches that have opened their fields to us. Their kindness has allowed us to keep our programs going. What our soccer community needs are a city-supported soccer fields where players, youth, and adults can practice and play safely. The soccer community in Pittsburgh is growing faster than ever. When a city invests in soccer fields, it's investing in families, youth, and stronger sensation of community. Coaches, parents, players, and communities are ready to help in whatever we can, and I believe with the city support, we can build something lasting, a lasting place where everybody can have fields they can call home. Thank you for your time and continue to support opportunities that help this community grow stronger, both on and off the fields. Thanks.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in public input?
John Lair, 1608 North Joplin Street, Pittsburgh. Mayor and commissioners, you know the city manager works at the will of the commission. The commission works at the will of the voters. You need to remember that. And first of all, I'd like to see someone make the motion to rescind the budget and to amend the new budget. This is going to take some guts, and it's going to take some people speaking up. Not sitting there rubber stamping everything, but speaking up. So I just think it's time that we make some changes, and this is the time to do it. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Is there anyone else who would like to speak?
Good evening, Roger Lomchek, 1147 South 220th Street. So obviously we know what's going on here, that I've been calling for the budget to be reopened and the budget to be reopened and reduced by a sufficient amount to make up for the overage. From my understanding, I appreciate Joe's helped me out quite a bit. I've talked to Lisa Lusker, the county clerk, as well, as we worked through the kind of the discovery phase of this and figured out what's happening. It's not technically correct to say that valuations have dropped. What happened is that a significant number of properties were included on the initial valuation estimate, which did not belong there. They then, and the budgets are built using that number. Then, after the budgets are built and submitted to the county clerk, the error was discovered. Those properties were taken off of the tax rolls again, which left a significant deficit, and that deficit was made up by raising the mill levy. In this case, that included from what the county clerk had told me, that included the Block 22 properties, a number of others that are owned by PSU. And again, this was a error that occurred just in what was included and what was not, as well as, of course, as Darren had mentioned, the hospital. So if we go back and look at this stuff, so I guess let me stop there for a moment. In considering that, properties that were on the roll, which have never been included on the roll because they have always been tax exempt, or have been for a number of years, a significant number of years. Then that number is what the budgets are built on for the city, because all of you, and Darren, correct me if I'm incorrect, if I'm wrong on this, but you're given the estimated revenue from the clerk or the treasurer or whomever it is, and then you build your budget based on that anticipated revenue. Mm-hmm. Okay. So the city builds its budget based on the anticipated revenue. This year looked like a windfall because suddenly revenue collection is looking really high, except that was not a correct number because of the error. So now the budget's been built on a fantasy number that did not exist. It's kind of a Christmas vacation deal where Chevy Chase thinks he's getting the big company bonus, so he orders the swimming pool for his family house. And then he finds out he's getting into the Jelly of the Month Club or whatever it is. Not quite the big boost that he thought. Well, the same thing happened here in that an unrealistic number was worked off of, and then it was realized, oh, that's not correct. So instead, we're just going to raise the mill levy. And the commission at the time voted simply to pass the budget, which is, as Joe said, is completely correct. And then the clerk has to take that number and figure out how to raise that revenue. Once the error was discovered, the answer is to raise the mill levy. So I've been, when I've come and talked to the commission a few times, I've brought used a couple of actual houses that belong to friends of mine here in town as samples. So I've got one that's in the Lincoln Park area. These are pages 3 and 4 of that little document I sent you. The Lincoln Park property saw its tax increase by 8.06%, a little over $71 for them. The Woodgate property saw a tax increase from the city alone, just the city's share, of 9.42%. So almost 9.5% tax increase on that person. Any one of them, as Joe said, they're not gigantic amounts, but 80, 90, $100. I think the Woodgate one was, Woodgate's $140, and the Lincoln Park one's just shy of $100. But, we think, well, people should be able to make that up because it's inconvenient for the city government to have to relinquish this money, or the county. Of course it's inconvenient. It's inconvenient for those people that are struggling to buy milk or eggs to have to fork over an extra $100 to the city. If you turn back to page 1 on this presentation, I just want to bring a couple of things to your attention. This is a couple of years old, but this map of Kansas shows the counties and the cities, including Wyandotte County, which managed to stay revenue neutral in 2024. That's the most recent year I could find data for. But those number of entities managed to maintain the same budget the next year as they had the year before. That's what that indicates. At the top of this, we've got the actual hard numbers. For the houses, this is the second table down. You see the actual individual property tax increase. First is the revenue neutral statement. That was the thing that was mailed out back in August or September, telling people what they could expect. That at that point, based on what the city's proposed budget, those houses were looking at a 5.67% increase or a 7% increase in taxes. And I came to the city commission at that time at the revenue neutral hearing, bringing that up, and it was kind of argued that no, it's not actually that much. After the after the assessed values for the county were corrected, that ended up being that 8% and almost 9.5% tax increase for each of those, instead of the roughly 6 to 7% I talked about. So I've brought a couple of super short recordings I just want you guys to listen to. This again is from the revenue neutral hearing of, when was that, September? I think September or August. The two houses are going to pay roughly 6% more this year than they did last year. That's the actual increase in property tax if you vote to exceed the revenue neutral rate and go ahead and accept the full valuation increase. So that was what I was warning the commission at the time. Obviously, I was not aware of any of this other stuff that needed to be taken off the tax rolls, but it was obvious. And Stu, I think if you remember, you were kind of questioning me because you were like, there's no way it could be 6%. We're being told it's less. Are you sure you're not getting things, doing the math wrong and thinking it's 2 and 2 and 2? Darren, in that same meeting, you had stated this after I'd made that presentation.
I know Roger said 5 or 6. Jay gave a pretty thorough presentation that's been picked apart by a pretty mean accountant right there that keeps us in line, that said it looks like it's between 3 and 3.5% on the assessed valuation, and that's what we've been telling the commission. So if it's 6% and we've misled them, then I don't know how it could be, but that's where we're at. And that's an average, Roger.
I fully understand.
Well, then say that, because I think it's fair.
I am
the houses. Not every house gets the same percent.
Correct.
We did the calculation of the growth. We
Right.
took out the new growth, which is anything that wasn't on the tax rolls last year that won't affect your property. That was included in there. And then the estimate that we had said that we would have 3.5% growth on a regular property, on somebody's property. And when we looked at inflation, which was about 2.8%, we figured that was close enough. So I stand by that comment. But you're picking one property out of the tax bill. I think another question is, out of the 8.96 on the top line, what is it if you take out the 1.52? Did you say that?
You mean if you remove that 1.152
Yeah, the
increase?
thing that happened at the end. Yeah.
That's, I think Joe's numbers are right. It's a little over 200,000, 210 maybe, whatever it is.
No, I mean, what's the percent increase per house? I mean, you picked out a couple of houses, but I think it's important to understand that that one increase was significant.
Well, if you reduce that, that's 200 is going to make it about a 25% reduction, maybe a little more. Let's call it 30% reduction.
That's a significant jump. I mean, that 1.1.
Right.
Yeah, I think we've talked about that earlier in today's meeting, how that happened. That was nobody's intent. Had we known that those...
No, I'm not at all accusing anybody of intentionally misdoing this.
Well, you're playing a recording with everybody's voices, with my voice saying, well, you said it was 3.5 and this property is 5.6. So I want to be able to say, our intent was the average was going to be 3.5%. I don't know what this one property is, but we also need to account for the fact that the mill increase of 1.52 was a significant increase on everybody's percentage.
Right, that brought them up in this case to 8% and almost 9.5%.
Yeah.
My point being in these two, which are pretty representative houses, are in different Pittsburgh neighborhoods. One over towards Lincoln Park, one way out by Woodgate, that are in very different economic neighborhoods. And neither of them was anywhere, they were not close to 3% at that time. Now, is there, I don't know, without seeing all the numbers, it's hard to tell.
I think that's
how
kind of
that
what Joe was saying, is it's, how many, 9,100? I mean, pick two
Right,
out of
lot of
9,100 and
properties.
say, yeah, we all get that the property tax went up higher than any of us wanted it to.
Sure, okay, now the next point I guess I'm making is that number, the estimated revenue that the city was going to get from property taxes was higher by a significant amount than it was the year before. Is that correct, or is that not correct?
Before the 210?
Before,
The 210 was the part that was attributed to the correction.
to the error.
You're talking about.
I'm
before
talking
that.
about just the numbers you were building your budget off of, that you were
Oh,
presented with.
absolutely. Our costs went up considerably, and that's why we thought it was important to capture that.
Well, I don't mean the cost, but I mean the actual, when you looked at the numbers and the numbers you were given from the county or your own estimates said, we are going to bring in this much from property taxes, that number, the anticipated revenue, was significantly higher than last year.
Significant, what's
I
significant?
well, I guess, I don't know, it was higher than last year.
Well, so are our costs that it's offsetting.
Right. Is it?
There seems to be some idea that we can pick a time and just freeze our revenues, and we're going to be able to just pay for everything. That's our struggle every year with the budget.
Sure.
The expenses have gone up for piping, for gravel, for human capital, for equipment, just on average in the utility division, 30% in the last 4.5 years.
Yep.
That has to be paid for by something, or else we're gonna have to cut something. And at this point, we've had a commission that was riding the momentum. When I got here for the first 6 years, the assessed valuation went down every year. And we didn't do anything, and there was a lot of needs. So we put together the budget every year based on the assessed valuation, and we got to the point where it's like, hey, it's actually turned around. There's growth in the town, and part of that growth affects everybody's, do you live in town?
Sure, just right outside the city limits.
But you don't
Yeah.
live in the city limits?
Yep.
But if you live in the city limits.
Sure.
Your property taxes are going to go up as your neighbors' properties improve, as old houses get torn down and a new house gets built. That growth is what we count on to hold that mill levy flat and use that growth to offset those 30% increases and everything that we need to do the business. So when you say it went up significantly, that's one of the things that we look at every year, is to make sure that we're not just putting it in the bank, but we're actually using it to offset the cost. So this year, in the budget, we put in a 3% increase for all the commodities, because that's what our estimate is for property and liability insurance and everything else. That's why we were comfortable with the 3.5% number that we had on the assessed valuation for everybody's property. It's not, I mean, significant is relative, I guess is what I'm saying.
I guess, was the actual increase only 3.5%? Because from this, we're looking at this thing being a 9% increase as it stands now. If you remove that,
You take out the 1.1.
if you remove that 1.1, then let's say on the high side, we drop it down to take 30% off of that. That still leaves this at somewhere around
Our number has
6%.
two numbers in it. The number we have has an estimate of what the existing property is going to grow by and all of the new property that's coming on the tax rolls. And so it's very hard to get to where you're saying. That's why it is an estimate, and that's why I'm still saying, I was told at the time by our experts it was 3.5%. If it's 6, I don't know, but it seems like a lot to me.
It does,
It's more
but,
than we intended, for sure.
yeah. And then the question is, with knowing all of that now, let's fix it.
We look at it every year.
Let's fix it now, rather than putting this burden on people.
That is a county, and I'm glad Joe is here, because he's gonna kill me for saying this, and if he wants to swing at me, I'm standing here, but the valuation process and all those bills are a county action. If they wanna do that, then we'd be happy to go in, and I'm sure we could ask the commission if you wanna take the mill levy back to the 50.854, which is what we were hoping it would be. In the last 4 years, when we've had it set at the end of the year, it was within a couple of hundredths of that number. But that's a county process. That's driven by the county. The valuation system is theirs. They
I
own it.
totally understand that, but the action is dictated by the city, by each taxing entity.
Well,
Every one of them is independent. The city commission makes their decision, and then would submit that to the county clerk, and the county clerk and the treasurer would act on that decision by the city commission. It's not that the county will tell the commission what they can or cannot do. The city
I
commission.
think the city commission's going to be taking some
My
action.
proposal would be to reopen the budget and reduce it. If you took it down to the 3%, which when the commissioners voted on this, you were told that, and Doc and Stu and I guess Chuck and Cheryl were here too, when you voted on this to exceed the revenue neutral, you were told it would be a roughly 3% increase on people's taxes. And that's ends up, because of errors, because of whatever, that's not correct. It's 6% on average, except then we add in the phantom properties, and now it's almost a 9% increase that you voted on. You didn't know you were voting to raise people's taxes by 9%, but that's what you did because of the consequences of this.
So
Because
what you're proposing is that as Joe alluded to earlier, is to give people their money back.
Or issue a credit for the second half payments, yes, whichever the case is. If they have already paid the full year's property tax, then after the calculations are done, the county treasurer would mail a check to them or direct deposit, however the case may be. In the case of people who have only made the first half payment, the second half payment is not due until May 20th. And so there's plenty of time to work through the calculations. It doesn't need to be a hair on fire moment, but it does need to be done. Work through the calculations, determine what the credits would be, and issue that to be applied to the second half payment, issue them new tax statements, and they will pay the difference between the credit and what they've have remaining based on that number.
Well, I have one other question, Joe. You said you don't have room in your budget to do this.
Absolutely not.
So
It would have to come from somewhere else.
the cost would come to the city.
In this case, the cost would come from some part of that refund. If it's and Joe, I'm completely spitballing in broad terms, it may be $2 or $3 per person to deal with this if you subdivide it out between everybody. That's probably a fairly safe estimate in terms of printing, postage, envelopes, everything, right? So $2 to $3 per person. Some people, as I said, per check. Some people may only be getting $20 or $30. Others are going to be getting over $100 back. Some will be getting significantly more,
Joe, didn't you
depending
say
on
how
the value
much
of
they
their
were going to get
properties.
back? Didn't you say how much you thought they were going to get back?
I think Doc did. He'd estimate on the
The average
numbers.
is $21.
About $21.
You know, there's a lot of variables.
Sure, the
Roger
total
talks
value
about
of
the
them.
house in Woodgate. It depends on what your value went up. The
Of
county
course.
appraiser has to set a value on every property every year. So it depends on what that value did. Some values didn't change at all.
Yeah, I
But the
think
real estate
Roger's-
market is very strong, has been, and some values went up 10, 12% probably. So those are the ones that saw a significant tax increase. You know, it's the real estate market. It's, the county appraiser has to put a value on it that's a market value.
So as we're talking about this, keep something in mind. When I was talking to the school board yesterday, spoke with JB Elliott some the week before on this, he talked about the students that they've lost. They've lost, I think he said 119 students total. And more than a few of them, maybe up to 30%, moved to Northwest Arkansas from what they've been able to determine. Why would they move there?
Lower taxes, I expect.
Lower taxes and probably better opportunity. A lower tax environment creates a better economic environment generally. And here we are, we're seeing the people we most want to retain, which is young families, are leaving. If USC 250 lost 119 students, that's a significant number of families that have fled. And from the people I know who have left, almost uniformly, they did it for, number one, better opportunity, but a significant part of their decision process was the tax environment that they're facing here. Tim Schallenberg at the legislative send-off said it pretty well the other day. The perception is this is a government town. That so much of the processes here, so many of the opportunities are dictated by government.
Tim also said, oh, excuse me, go ahead.
No,
He also said, he opened up with a very strong statement about property taxes. Do you want to recap what he said there?
I honestly do not recall that. Y'all have to
Well, I'll
defer
recap
to you.
it for you.
Yeah.
The state is looking at property tax, the country is looking at property tax, the League of Kansas Municipalities is looking at property tax. And if you think that there's a silver bullet to solve the property tax equation, the silver bullet is what revenue is going to replace it, because you are going to need fire stations, and you are going to need police officers, and you are going to need a court, and you are going to need parks, and you're going to need administration. And he was very clear that searching for something is much bigger than we have been doing here in Pittsburgh. It's been going on statewide.
Of course.
Until you find another revenue. There's a caucus up there right now, bipartisan, in the House, of 41 people that had jobs in cities and counties that are looking at the impact of all these decisions on property tax, because everybody wants to cut them and nobody wants to pay them. And there's somebody like you in every community that's coming out saying, hey, they went up, you said 3.5, they're up 7, they're up 8. We get it, but ours are up to match the costs that we have. You said it earlier, we put the budget together, not on the mill rate as much as the number we need to fund the services. We don't have an extensive reserve. We aren't piling the money away. We can't invest it. We are paying for the services. We have 14 parks. We have a growing, and one thing about police and fire, which are heavily supported by the property tax, the voters have voted in this community repeatedly to supplement the property tax because it only generates so much, because they want better police and fire and roads and economic development. So his message was, you can keep looking for it, and they're going to keep looking for it. And we have at least a dozen initiatives from the meeting we had Friday with the league about how we can reduce the property tax if that's what we want to do. And I've already explained that to DJ and the commissioners, that we will have options in the budget. But this idea that everything is going to be fine if we cut property tax is a farce. The communities that don't have a property tax have an electric utility. If you look at our income tax at the state level, Kansas pays 24% of their, a normal Kansan, this is from the league yesterday, 24% of their pay goes to taxes.
Right.
Federal income tax is number 1, and it's double digit. State income tax is number 2. Then you get down into the county and the city's property taxes and the school districts. And then below that, there's some sales taxes. Those are like 3%. The reason property tax is so difficult is, number 1, people get hit with it and they have 2 chances to pay it. The income tax you pay every time you get paid. The sales tax you pay every time you buy something. We've got this process in Kansas where you just get it, you get a bill and you have to pay it, and then the other half comes due pretty quick. But if you ask the counties, can we spread that out over a month? Can we do, well, that's really expensive. But it's second to the lowest tax that you pay out of everything else. But it's property tax, but it's about the only one that completely goes to your community.
Sure.
So nobody's thrilled with property tax up here, and believe me, I don't see a face up there that in the last week hasn't told me, we're going to do something with property taxes next year. But I think putting it on the county, who followed the process to a T, and obviously the city set our mill rate thinking it was in good faith and going to pay for the services. We all need to do a better job probably of knowing early on in May what properties are changing use, which ones are coming off, which ones are coming back on as far as tax abatements, because that's a big impact. But by no means is anybody up here gloating that we put it to the voters and got a higher property tax.
I don't think that's ever been.
But I don't think we can, I think it's very arduous to put it on the county to go back and send out bills.
It's going to be extra work, yeah.
Can't we account for it next year? I mean, is that not appease?
Well, if we account for it next year, then you're saying that we're going to drop the mill levy back down to 50, and we're going to knock off another $200,000 or $300,000 minimum off of the budget on top of that, because the mill levy was raised for this money that should not have existed in the budget in the first place.
And the mill raise, and so just to be clear, the mill at 50 is 50.8.
Yep.
So it's closer to 51.
50.854 right now.
And I have not met a commissioner that's sitting up there right now that didn't tell me that they are expecting me to possibly cut at least 1 to 2 mills, if not more, out of the budget for next year to do something. So I think that is the plan, and we're going to start on it in February. but I want to be real friendly to the county and not sitting here in a city meeting and say, the commission can do whatever they want. If they want the county to go back and do that, they can say it, but I think Joe made a very good point of, he followed the process correctly. It didn't come out with the result everybody wants, but going back and refunding it is going to be extremely difficult. And he's convinced me of that, and they've convinced me that they're going to address whatever they can in next year's budget. So I'm sorry for talking so long. I just want to make sure
I appreciate your
you
input.
guys understand that property tax is important here as it is anywhere in the state. We want it to be as low as possible. And it is a critical part of funding our operations here at the city.
Yeah, well, of course it is, and nobody's expecting it not to be. In this case, we're looking at the city's gonna bring in a total of almost 9% extra revenue this year compared to last year. So which part of that is that 3% that you were talking about?
Well, part of, like I said, I don't have it broken down like that. They give us the valuation number. I mean, if you've ever seen the spreadsheet,
Yep.
the biggest number that jumped out to us was, we were like, why is this so high? And it came back to.
Sure, the hospital.
Well, it was a hospital and more. That one line item in the last 2 years ago, I think was 245,000. This year was 16 million.
Right.
Had we not have pulled the hospital out, we would be looking at probably
About 13%.
60. I mean, we'd be way up there. We'd
Yeah.
really be having a discussion.
Well, that's what the school district is looking at, that they didn't pull the hospital out, they didn't know about it even.
So, and I think part of that's gonna be addressed by, in March, we'll have the chamber and the university here for their economic development contracts, and part of that discussion is gonna be, let's literally look at the stuff that's come on and off the tax rolls the last 10 years with all the incentives we've given out. But, our costs go up every month. I mean,
Sure.
we just added a park this month. We finally have 3 new police officers that we hired, so we're as close to being full police force as we've been in 7 years. We budget every position, and our entire budget, the whole thing gets appropriated. If we don't spend it, it goes to reserves. And I think right now, we go through every year for 5 months, we give them the 5-year forecast, which shows exactly where we are in reserves, and we're not high above minimum. We're not running hot, and we're not flashy with our money. I mean, we buy what we buy, but I can't just pick a house out and say it's 3.5%, Roger. I got 9,100 homes or whatever he said. But our best guess was it was 3.5 to 4%, and nobody was happy when it came in at 8.9 or 9 or whatever you said it was. I'm looking at the red number.
Yeah, and those numbers are straight from Joe.
But that's never happened. I've never seen that 1.1215.
Sure.
That's crazy.
No, and that's just
But it
it.
did happen. And
It did
was a
happen, right.
stinger. But I also think it should be known that we're consistent with what the increase that the county accepted and the school district. And there's a reason for that, because we all are operating in the same economy, and the cost of providing services is ever increasing.
Sure, unfortunately, none of your residents see those kinds of increases.
What do you mean?
Nobody's
groceries
pay
aren't
is
going
going, nobody's pay is going up 9%. No,
Well,
that's
they
what I'm
are.
saying.
We got a
They're-
pretty
they're-
good wage salary. It says wages went up
But they are,
35%.
they're
in
seeing
the
it
last
in their
5 years.
grocery bills, they're seeing it.
No, Doc, I'm sorry, you misunderstood. Nobody's pay is going up that much. Their expenses are, they're getting hit with that and more.
Roger, we have 300 employees, and 4
Yep,
years ago,
totally
we did a pay
understand.
study, and we brought them up, I think I averaged 12.5, 13%. So there are people in this community whose pay is going up. I can tell you, it's not enough, because we're already looking at the utility division, and they're probably $3 and $4 lower than they need to be. So life is extremely expensive, and we are doing the best we can.
Yep. So last question for you on this part of it. When you were working off those initial numbers, when you were building the budget, if the anticipated revenue had been $300,000 less, would you have said, nope, we have to have that extra $300,000 and come to the commission and said, I need $1 million or $1.5 million raised?
The only time I've gone to the commission and asked for a mill raise was the year I got here. We had $1 million in the bank, and,
Right.
which was
Yeah,
right after
I
2000.
completely
It was
agree.
after the
Too low for
2008
that.
crash, so it was bleak.
Yep.
And then when the revenue neutral, or when the property tax lid went into place, we put 3 mills on to protect ourselves from being limited there. I have never recommended a budget in the last 5 years that went over the existing mill rate.
Totally understand and agree. And my point in asking you that is that this money, the budget would have been made without this extra money had you known about it. You would not have built a budget this large if your choice had been build a budget this large knowing we're gonna raise the mill levy, or leave the budget 200,000 or 300,000 lower.
I got the information I got when I gotta make the
No,
decision.
that's my
I
point.
mean, I don't know that.
I'm not blaming you for that. I'm simply saying that in the normal budget planning process, when you get the anticipated revenue numbers, you build a budget to roughly equal that, because that's how
That's
you
not how it works. You know what we do every year when we build a budget? The first thing we do is we
start
do a
figuring out what you
five-year
got to
forecast.
trim.
No, we do a 5-year forecast, and the first number we plug in is the existing property tax mill rate is gonna stay the same, and we're gonna live off the growth.
Right.
And now if we get to a point that we can't do that, we'll obviously go back and say, hey, we need to increase the mill rate. But for the last 4 or 5 years, that's the number we've stuck with, and
Right.
we've taken that growth. And half of that growth this year, we determined was new stuff, and half of it was gonna be a 3.5% average increase on a taxpayer. And you know, I mean, that's a projection that we have to make 6 months before. I mean,
Sure,
we're doing
it's
that
hard
in
to
June, and that
be
budget
accurate.
went into effect 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So that's another really frustrating part, but yeah, we don't put the dollar amounts and start chasing the mill. We set, our promise has always been, we're gonna set the mill rate, we're gonna keep the mill flat, and we're gonna live off the growth. And that was only because it finally got to the point that we could do that. For 6 years, we couldn't even do that. It was always going down.
Sure, and my point in asking that is that had this stuff been calculated right, that number to keep the mill stable would have been lower than what you worked off of.
I get the numbers from the county, man. I'm not gonna
No,
take
no,
the
I'm
county.
not blaming you for that. What I'm saying is that in the real world of doing this stuff, had you been presented with, had you known the correct number, as you're
Which
working
number?
through this,
Assessed valuation number?
the actual the taxable assessed valuation number. Had you had the correct number instead of the one that included all of the non-taxable properties, then you would have had a completely different workup to the budget, because the budget you passed would be showing a $200,000 or $300,000 deficit.
Every calculation on the property tax starts with assessed valuation, you're correct.
Right, and so that's my point, that in an alternate world where this had not happened, this budget would be that much lower at a minimum, because your goal understandably is to keep the mill roughly at the stable level.
In my opinion, that budget is $210,000 too high.
There you go. And so to wrap
Higher
this.
than we planned.
Yep. So my question to the commission then is, what are we gonna do about this? We're just gonna tell the city residents that they have to eat it, and we're just gonna promise to do better next year. Because when I was talking to the county, Bruce Blair brought up the idea that it could maybe cost $70,000 to do this. I thought that was probably a high estimate. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, we'll find out. But, so I put out a poll on the citizens page just to see. 93% said even if it's a $70,000 cost, they want a refund. 93% of people.
Roger, aren't we taxing by, if somehow the county could come up with a way to refund at $2 to $3 per person, per taxpayer, aren't we adding another tax on that by costing $2 to $3? You're paying $2 to $3 per person extra to get, in some cases, $7, $21, maybe $100, but.
Sure.
Is that fiscally responsible to?
Well, that's
do that?
going to cut into the amount that they could get back.
I know, but what, I
Right.
mean, we're.
Well, I don't know, is it fiscally responsible, but from that, I was gonna pull the numbers up, but there were a little bit under 600 people answered the poll. 93% of them said, I don't care, I want my money back.
I mean, yeah, I know.
Now that's,
I know
are
the
they?
poll you're talking about, but I mean, it's,
Well, the
very unscientific.
It's a very unscientific poll, it's Facebook, I mean,
Yes.
But out of that number of people who responded, 93% said, even if it costs $70,000 to give us back our few $100,000, we want that done.
You think they understood that was gonna cost them $2 to $3 to do that? Or that it was just gonna cost the county $70,000?
Well, I mean, that $70,000 comes from somewhere.
Well, I know, but do you think that in that poll that's that they totally comprehended that, or if they just said, no, I don't care what it costs.
Well, if it's $70,000 out of 40,000 residents, that's $2 a piece almost, or $1.70 a piece, or whatever it is.
I think we're running back into the same circle here. I mean, we're looking at the concept of information wasn't correct, not to fault, it just happened.
Yeah,
We were
it just
told
happened.
that it was gonna be this amount, and then it changed. The citizens were told that the numbers were gonna be a set amount of numbers, and they're different. And it's unsettling. I don't feel comfortable with any of this. I mean, you look at this budget, we've looked at this thing so many times. Myself as a civilian, sitting in those seats for months, and then now we're using the budget, and it's still being brought back up that it's inaccurate, and then now we have a situation where the budget is part of the inaccuracy causing something else. And ultimately that's what's being said, but it's not what's being said. So the data on that budget was built off properties having a valuation that shouldn't have been on there. That's the way I'm perceiving it.
That's not accurate, Commissioner. The process, Joe, you're gonna need to get back up here. The process was followed. There's nothing inaccurate about how this was done. It's just the nature of the development in the community.
You just got through saying that there was properties on there that were a part of the revenue trail.
And that happens every year. No, every year, the county goes in after we've submitted our budget, and people protest, and people do things, and properties change, and they come off. This year, because of the properties and the nature of them, and I don't have the detail, it was a much.
Decisions are a lot of them.
Can you come to the mic? Because
Come on, Joe.
Joe.
I'll take a break for a moment. Take it away.
But
There's several payment protest hearings that are finalized, BOTA decisions, Board of Tax Appeals decisions. That's where people have filed for an exemption, and at the time when the clerk sent the assessed value at the time in June, then between there and the 1st of November, the exemption orders came through, so that the value was reduced.
it wasn't inaccurate. That's
No,
how the
it wasn't
process
inaccurate,
works
it's just
every year.
it does happen every year. Normally, it's not
I
that
don't like
much.
it.
The value always goes, between June and the 1st of November, the valuation always decreases some, because it can't be raised. The appraiser can't go in, even if there was a mistake made and it was too low, he can't go in and raise that until the next year. So it does always reduce a little bit.
Who owns the rule that at the end of the year, instead of giving us the mill rate we submitted, they give us the tax dollars we submitted? Is that a state rule?
That's,
You know what I mean?
when you set your budget, that's what it is.
That's what I mean.
Yes.
So every year, our mill rate gets tweaked at the end. I mean, it's, I don't like it, but it happens every year.
Yeah,
This year.
the mill levy changes a little bit. The tax dollars stay the same. That's why when I was talking about there's nothing nefarious going on here, the tax dollars that you're getting are still the tax dollars you're getting. They haven't increased,
We're working off the best information we have in September when we submit that budget. And it was accurate. It's just, we didn't know it was gonna change that much.
Joe, please stay up there for a second. So I guess my question now is, going back and forth on this, how do we stop this from happening? How do we make sure this doesn't happen again? Because I'm hearing that it only happens a small amount, and that's the norm, but this is not a small amount. This is a much larger amount. So how do we prevent this?
As I would say better communication. If we know there's properties that are before the Board of Tax Appeals, those are pending, they might come through, they might not, but that valuation, probably should be reduced from what's sent out to the taxing entities when they're gonna estimate what they're.
That would help us, because we're working off of their spreadsheet. And we did catch the big number, but we didn't catch the relevant numbers. Or maybe they didn't even know at the time, but we called and asked, and we worked on it for a couple of weeks, but it still changed at the end. And not to our favor. I mean,
This is the first time there's been a, change like that.
It's usually a tenth. It's usually.
Yeah, it's usually a tenth of a mil.
Again, that's my concern. I keep hearing it doesn't do this, and then it's happened, but then it's still kind of like, well, it happened, we'll deal with it later, and it's just, there's a lot of back and forth. So I feel like we need to talk this more and get more information and dig a little bit deeper. I don't know.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
I don't know.
I guess I'll dispute one part of that. This issue did not come about because people contested their property taxes. This came about because a significant number of properties, from the list the county clerk gave me, including the Block 22 full list of properties, were inadvertently added to the taxable rolls, and then they were removed. That's the information I was provided. It's not that some homeowners contested their property taxes and those taxes were removed, or that somebody's little business became non-taxable or something. There were a lot of properties of a large value which came off the rolls, not came off the rolls for the first time. They were never on the rolls, but because of an error, they were accidentally put back on the rolls during the crucial time when the numbers are generated for the revenue estimates. Those numbers were then corrected after the budgets had passed, and that necessitated the mill levy increase.
And that was the bulk of it?
That's what I was told. I've got the list at home. I guess I could have brought that with the description of the properties, but one of them I fully remember was the Block 22 properties, because as it was explained to me, they've previously been under ownership, and Darren, if I'm way out of hand here, let me know. They were previously owned by a developer. That developer leased at PSU. They paid the property taxes every year, but because of whatever agreement, they were refunded those property taxes as soon as they paid them. So there was never, that revenue was never actually going in to the city's account. And now PSU, I believe, has taken ownership of the Block 22 properties, which changed its status from whatever abatement was agreed to completely exempt.
Because of the Board of Tax Appeals decision. That's what I said.
But the Board of, okay, so.
See, they had to file for exemption. It's not
PSU
automatic.
did.
Yes.
Okay,
They filed
thank
for
you.
exemption, and it was before the board, and the board granted them the exemption.
But it's something that has, in actuality, not generated property
It
tax
has
rate.
generated property tax.
But was it
It was
paid out?
under
Or was it-
neighborhood, yes, it was
was it
under neighborhood
refunded?
revitalization plan, but it was, part of it was refunded back to the developer under neighborhood revitalization.
Okay.
Part of the taxes were distributed.
They were coming in,
Yes,
okay.
yes.
Well, there you go.
Yes, another large one was where the business school is going.
And that's why
Right.
we didn't catch it.
Right,
The
no, and
hospital's
and
a no-
again, I'm not
the hospital's a
blaming you, or I'm not
no-brainer,
blaming
'cause
somebody else
I'm
for
like, I'm on the
that.
hospital board, I'm like, this is not gonna be.
Right,
this
yeah,
is
we're not
gonna
paying,
be-
nobody's
it's
paying
gonna be
property tax on
non-taxed.
us, right.
But that other one is, I mean, that's, that we didn't know about it, and so.
Right.
And so I guess to DJ's point, or Commissioner Perry's point, yeah, I mean, there are so many incentives and abatements and things going on that it just gets, you know,
It gets hard to
sometimes
track.
it gets caught, you get caught in something, and I think this is one of those deals.
A significant number of these, but so there you go. Just wanted to clarify that. So I guess ultimately, my recommendation to the commission is to make a motion to reopen the budget and see what reductions can realistically be made without harming services. I had prepared a motion of that with an actual dollar amount on page 2 of this thing. That's for $506,000, $774. That is what the estimate was if you took the almost 9% increase that the city actually saw versus the 3% that the commission were told they were voting on. That's where I got that number.
Are you recommending that gets refunded?
Yes, sir.
So the city's gonna cut refund checks for the $210,000?
Well, the city's not gonna cut a refund check, the city's simply not gonna draw that revenue. They're gonna reduce the budget by that amount.
We've
And
already
then-
drawn the revenue.
Well, right, then
You're just saying we're not gonna spend it.
you're not gonna spend it, the county clerk and treasurer are gonna issue either rebates, refunds, or credits towards the second half payment. I mean, that's whether
What do you
you,
think of that?
I'm not wild about it, but that's not my decision.
to him, the dollar amount doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you tell him to give everybody a nickel or give everybody $50. It's a matter of what's gonna come out of
Is
the
the school
city's
district
budget.
doing it?
The school district is not doing it.
Is the
They're-
county doing it?
That's, the county's waiting on you to decide. And so we're
The
gonna play this
county's waiting
game.
on the city?
The county's waiting on the city to decide. Nobody wants to pull the trigger. They're all scared.
Are we scared? I don't know if we're scared.
Well, it's a
county process.
No, it's
How does the
each,
county have a process and they're waiting on the city to
you,
decide?
I'm saying the county commissioners don't wanna have to make a decision until they see what decision the city commissioners make. City commissioners probably don't wanna make a decision until the county commissioners
The
make
county
it.
commissioners have a $700,000 decision, and they're
Yep.
gonna make it when we make our
Or
$200,000.
they may find some number in between.
And they're the ones that are gonna have to do the work.
And everybody is gonna have to do the work. The city
We're
commission.
not sending out any, we don't bill for property
No, but the
taxes,
city's
right?
gonna have to the city staff, the city manager, the city commissioner is gonna have to reevaluate the budget, find where they're gonna make those cuts, and then present that modified budget to the county, at which point the county treasurer and county clerk will have to do all of their work to determine that. But my point is, Darren, that.
My recommendation is we should take the lead from the county. It's their process, but I'll defer to the commission on this for sure.
But I just wanna point one thing out, it's the county's process in the sense that you are directing the county to adjust the mill levy and deal with this. But you, the city commissioners, have to make the decision for the city. The county doesn't tell you whether they can do it or not, any more than you can tell the county commissioners how they're going to vote.
Well, I was prepared to come in here today and recommend to the city commission that if the county wanted to go forward with this, then we would participate.
Yeah, but
I was never in the, I mean, believe me, there's plenty of things processes that we own, that we do, and that we have to redo and fix, but this is the billing of county, all the property in the county is a county function. So.
Right.
I mean, Joe's just explained, he's the one that's gonna have to do all the work and how BOTA works.
It's gonna be a
The city
headache.
followed our process to the T. And so I think it's a little odd that the county would come in and say, well, we'll do whatever the city wants. I mean.
No, that's what I'm telling you is that from the standpoint of making that political decision to reopen the budget and cut it, the county is holding their breath to see what the city commission does. In the same way, nobody wants to be the first one to step out on the dance floor.
And the school district didn't.
School
decide.
district is hamstrung by the fact that so many of their property tax revenue is broken down into 4 funds, some of which are dictated by the state, and some of which, how much they get from it is actually dictated by state payouts that won't happen for a few months.
How big
So
was their number?
their actual total number was, I think, 12.5 or 13%. Because
In dollars, I'm sorry.
in dollars, I'm sorry, I don't have a number in front of me, and
Was
I,
it more than us or less? I mean,
no, it's more.
Ours was 2, the county's 7.
It's
theirs
more,
was-
well, right, the school district obviously encompasses more than just the city. And on top of that, because they did not even remove the calculation of the hospital from their initial budget build. They were working off of what they thought was bigger numbers. So their mill levy increased 2 point something, I don't remember what it was. But it ended up being higher than because of that.
Well, it sounds like what Darren just said, he was gonna make a recommendation for the city to follow the county's lead. And, you know, it shouldn't be the other way around. The county should decide what they're gonna do, and if that's what they're gonna do, then that's what we'll do. You know,
I realize this is uncomfortable. Something to keep in mind, the county process that Darren's referring to is the process of the county offices involved having to do the work to actually make this happen. The county does not tell you what to do, and no part of the county is involved in deciding what you do. When I'm saying that the county is waiting, I'm referring to the county commissioners. They want to see whether you're gonna sack up and actually give people back their money.
so if you tell me the school's not gonna do it,
The school is not gonna do it. They are in large part hamstrung by state rules on when they get their funding. They don't, based on discussions I've had with the superintendent, they don't even know how much of it, if they collect too much, the state keeps it. They will only let the school district get so much as a percentage of what the state gives them from other funding sources.
so if the county decides not to do it, do you expect the city to do it?
Well, I would hope the city would. I mean, we are here in the case of Chuck and Cheryl, I know you two voted against the exceeding the revenue neutral rate and against the budget because you felt it was too high. It's something, and when the commission did vote on it, they voted on it because they were told it was gonna be roughly a 3% increase. And I know, Darren, that we can't pick one house here or there, but looking at this, even without that mill levy increase, it was gonna be more than double that. For total revenues collected, total revenues
I guess-
collected were over 6%.
I'm just trying to understand one thing. During the budget process, 3 entities, the city, the county, and the school district, we're gonna go over the revenue neutral rate. Correct? I don't need an answer. It's correct.
They were
Okay?
gonna go over the revenue neutral
Yeah,
rate.
everybody
Yes,
voted to exceed the revenue neutral rate.
that is correct.
The school district did it. We did it.
Yep.
We did it on a 3-2 vote, and it became a big issue in the election.
Yep.
Now, fast forward to January, there's this problem that we all share. The county share is 700,000.
Yep.
The school districts is somewhere north of us, and we have the smallest impact of 200,000, and we have to be the tipping point for the whole process to happen. I don't understand that. Why are we always in here beating up this city commission to be the leader in a community when we have the smallest budget? And everybody can laugh all they want, but all of our property taxes are spent here. I mean, why isn't the county, if this is so important, leading on this?
I'm gonna be talking to them too again and pushing them to do this, because ultimately, nobody wants to be the first one to do it. That's your short answer.
All right,
But
well,
everybody wants to see, well, if the city decides to do it, now the commissioners get a lot of pressure, they have to do it. And if you guys decide to keep all the money, then the county commissioners get to say, well, the city didn't do it, so we're just gonna blow it off too. And that's a decision that the commission will have to make if they want to say, you know what, we voted against this earlier, but we wanna let everybody keep their money. We wanna keep the excess anyway. And yeah, is it going to be a headache for the county clerk and the treasurer and the appraiser and reworking through this? It absolutely will. It's gonna eat up a lot of man hours that they probably would rather spend doing other things, and it's gonna take some amount of money. As Joe said, it could be a couple bucks, could be $3 per person who a check is mailed to. But on the flip side, this is what people are expecting. They were taxed excessively because the budgets were built on fantasy numbers that should never existed. The fact that that fantasy number was there was not any of your faults, but it's the reality that that fantasy number that should not have existed is what you built your budget off of. And now, when the commission voted to accept that budget, they thought they were voting for a 3% tax increase. It turns out it's a 9% tax increase. So that's the question, is that what you want it to be? That we're just gonna leave it at a 9% tax increase, almost 8.96%. That's how much extra you're bringing in taxes this year. Now, is some of that valuation? Of course it is. But that's the thing, the goal was to not increase the taxes this high. But here we are with almost a 9% tax increase. And that's my question to you. What amount do you want to tell the taxpayers, you know what, we're gonna let you, we're just gonna keep it, and wink, wink, we promise we'll do better next year?
Well, I go back to that same question I asked Joe Grisolano about the carrying it over and being good stewards of the taxpayers' money. I think that's the most responsible thing to do, is to carry it over and say we'll spend $210,000 less in next year's budget. And it's an open meeting, and I mean that's close to a promissory note that you can make. I just think it gets watered down when you start taking $2 and $3, for supplies and postage out of someone's refund, and it's unprecedented. Here, anyway, maybe somebody else has done it, I don't know.
It's happened in the state before, but you're right, it's extremely rare that this would happen.
It's extremely rare, we're in uncharted territory here. I bet Joe would agree, I think he even said, there are gonna be errors. What happens at that point when we don't get that right, or in his case, the county doesn't get that right? That just adds, to me, it seems more responsible to keep it bundled up and deducted off of next year's. That's my opinion, but I also don't know that it's even, I don't recall ever making a motion to do something this large or even half this size in public input. We haven't even made it out of public input yet, so I don't know whether this needs to be an agenda item at the next meeting, which I would think, and then maybe the county
Yes, that'd be an answer for Henry on the
It
procedural part
It
of
seems
it.
like an odd place to make that. I don't know if should be at non-agenda reports and requests, but, I mean, I guess we can do it at any time, but, I feel like we ought to, if we're gonna make that type of decision, probably schedule it for an actual agenda item at the next meeting, so we can have a little more input on it. And again, maybe take the lead on the county commission's, reaction to it.
Well, and something I want to make clear, that any decision you made tonight, if you did make a motion, is purely to direct city staff to begin digging into the budget and finding the necessary cuts that they can make to meet. You could even set it for different dollar amounts. What happens, direct city staff to give you two different answers. What happens if you take 200 off, and what happens if you take 500 off? And figure out where that is. You don't have, any decision you make is not binding on actually executing and telling Joe to proceed. It's simply a decision to say, we want staff to give us the numbers on where they would make these cuts for the dollar amount we're telling them.
But Roger, as a non-city resident, you're not in favor of doing the carryover to next year?
I'm not, and from the.
And that's your opinion, just like
Sure,
mine
and
my opinion, so.
from the 93% of the people who answered my poll, they're not in favor of carryover either. And I could not have made those questions any more clear. Do you want your money, even if it costs $70,000 to issue a refund? 93% said yes.
Well, that's the only question you ask. Or do you want a refund?
No, the other question was, or do you want to have them keep it on the promise of being better stewards and doing better next year?
Or
that was the other question.
Or reducing your next tax payment, or next year's tax payment.
No, the explanation included that some people would get credits issued, some people would get refunds, but this process that we're describing would cost up to $70,000. That's what the question was.
Well, I think it'll cost, frankly, I think it'll cost you more than $70,000, because you're not including the amount of time that his people are gonna have to spend doing this.
We're not.
And that's coming out of his budget, because they could be doing other things.
I guess
Correct?
we need to see. I don't know. Does that mean they're gonna end up having 100 hours of overtime at the end of the year? I don't know. But the alternative is that we're gonna keep the money, the city's gonna keep the money, the county's gonna keep the money, we're just gonna let taxpayers deal with it and take it in the shorts, and then next year, we're gonna think about doing better. And I personally, I don't have faith in that, and I don't think many of the taxpayers do. They've seen, it's just the inevitable result of how government operates, that they're going to spend the money that they have available. And I realize costs have gone up, everybody knows that. But there's also the simple fact that if this had never happened, if this $200,000 or $300,000 or $700,000 in the part of the county, if that number had never been presented as a possible number without raising the mill 1 or 2 or 3 mills, nobody would have built their budgets this high. All these budgets would be lower. But the budgets were set where they were because those funds were available with keeping what they thought was keeping the mill steady. And now we're faced with the situation that, oops, we had to raise the mill because none of these numbers we were working off of were accurate.
I think we're all in agreement that doing nothing is not an option. We have to do something about this, and what the best option is, what makes the most sense, what's the most fiscally responsible, what takes the least amount of time. I think, I agree with Stu, we need to make a plan to address this and weigh things out.
I guess my question, I'll leave you with this. My question would be that at the very least, make a motion and a formal vote tonight to direct city staff to present you with options for cuts in different dollar amounts.
Well, depending on what option we go with, we might not even have to do that if we just carry it over.
Well, that's what I'm saying, but if you don't make any decision tonight, now we're 2 more weeks out. The second half statements go out on May 20th. This is something that's gonna take some time. I would guess it's probably a month or more of working through the process to get this, so it's not a decision.
Wouldn't it be better when the budget is developed that we do it at that time? Because that's when we're gonna cut. Correct?
No, I'm saying you're gonna open the budget you've already passed, you're gonna reopen it, make the cuts off of that.
Well, I'm thinking for the next fiscal year.
Next fiscal year is a whole nother party. Yeah, we're talking about the budget that you've already passed, that you're gonna reopen it and say, you know what, we're gonna make cuts off of that, even though we've already begun working through this budget.
Well, I have another question. Will the state allow that?
Everything I've found is it can be done. It's very uncommon, as Stu said, but there's nothing that prevents you from reducing it. If you were to exceed the budget, then maybe you'd have to, and I guess that's another question. The city has certainly spent non-budgetary items to the tune of what seems like a lot of money. I don't know what the dollar amount
I
is.
think you said it's happened other places. Do you know other places?
I would have to find out. I know that there was
I assumed you knew since you said that, so you don't know where they are?
I don't know which one it is. I'll dig into it more.
You said what everything you found, it could be allowed.
There-
I'm not disputing what you have to say.
Yeah.
Jay, how long has you, I keep calling you Jay, your brother. Joe, how long have you been doing this?
20 years.
So you could probably have somebody you could call at the state and see if this is something we could do, or?
I mean, I don't know. I think, you know, Lisa has contacted the Department of Municipal Budgets, and, you know, they said it's probably against state statute, but to make changes at this point, because everything's been certified to the state, that the state gets money also. So, I'm not gonna put my neck on the line and say, you know, because I don't know if the state would back that up. You know, it was one person that said that. I will say that the information that I told you guys, I have also visited with each of our commissioners individually and told them the same thing. It's better to try to make cuts in next year's budget than to try to redo, because I don't know where you're gonna cut $700,000 out of the county's budget. I don't
First,
know. I
don't
mean,
you
there were
think we
some,
need to find
there
out-
were some pretty big
We need to
increases
find
made
out
in
from the
a few
state,
departments.
first of all, if it's legal. That's the main thing to start off the ball rolling. Because it takes a lot of heart to admit we have a problem, and we're all admitting that there's a problem, but we owe it to the taxpayers to make sure that we're doing everything we can to correct it. But if the state first and foremost has to tell us. So
I don't know,
it shouldn't-
you know, that you would get a definitive answer. I don't know the answer to that. I really don't.
But if they're the top elected or whatever informational, they should be able to tell us. Because I'm sure we're not the first people this has ever happened to.
I think that you know,
In
I
your
don't know.
20 years,
I can't, it's never happened here, no. Not in the last 20 years or way beyond that.
But I think we owe it to the people to make sure that we're doing everything possible, because
I think you
we
did.
don't want to throw
What I
good money
said
at
was
bad
you
money.
You did it. You did it when you set your budget. Your budget was a dollar amount. Everything was done the right way. That's the dollar amount you said is the dollar amount you thought you were gonna need, and that's the budget. The levy, that backs into it with the assessed value. That's just it's a mathematical calculation. The budget is a dollar amount. That's.
I think we should do
That's all I
what Stu
have.
said.
You know, that's-
We should make it an agenda item. We should look at it, come back and discuss it, find out from the state, and go from there.
Well, I think what you mentioned a while ago, DJ, if you say that again, because counties are waiting on us, the county's waiting on us, we're waiting on the county. Why can't we have some kind of work thing with the county?
Yeah, I'd like to speak to the county commissioners on this
Oh.
and
That's a very good idea.
get their point of view and where they're looking at it and what options they're looking at as well. I think
If we
that'll
all
help
work
us make a
together,
decision.
absolutely.
I think that's realistic, and the people are going to accept that you don't want to make a rash decision. But what we also don't want to see is that the city and the county just decides to set this aside because it's too much work. We get that it's too much work. Everybody's working hard, but that's part of the job. That's why you're here. You aren't elected to take the easy way. So I'll leave it at that.
A portion of this money also went to the state, correct?
The state did, they left their mill levy exactly the same, and their revenue increased by just shy of 6%. It was 5-point-something%, I believe.
So we're gonna try to claw that money back? Cause some of that money's in.
No,
what the
sir.
taxpayers paid.
No, each entity is paid separately. You're not gonna try and claw money back from the state. The only money the city has is the money that the city collects for the city's budget. You're not touching anything from the state. And Joe, please correct me.
The state mill levy is in statute. It's 1.5 mils,
And
period. It doesn't matter what the value is, it doesn't matter, it's 1.5 mils goes.
And that's paid directly,
statewide.
that's paid directly to the state, correct?
No,
Yeah.
it's paid on your tax bill, and we
I mean,
distribute
it's paid, that's what I mean.
We distribute it to
You
the
collect it and then you pay the state directly. City never touches that.
I think
That's
the
totally
state didn't get any more because of this situation. They got their 1.5%.
Correct, because
They got their 1.5 mils, I got more.
they got their 1.5 mils. They collected the valuation growth. And
Right,
Joe,
right.
I defer to you, I just don't have that in front of me, but it was just shy of 6%, 5 point something
I'm not sure.
percent in actual revenue increased by the state. So there you go. I'll leave you with that. I just ask that at the very least, you make a concerted effort. I would recommend a motion to explore this. Make it an official motion that you want to explore this and vote on that. Let's see, are you in favor of at least exploring the option of giving people a refund?
I think we owe that. I think we do.
Okay, I'll step away. Thank you very much.
Roger, we appreciate you bringing all this in. I know it's taking up a lot of your time, and it's obviously.
It's a lot of work for everybody.
For everyone.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much.
One thing I would say about that, if that's how we're leaning on making a motion at his advice, is that we don't, I think we should say we're gonna explore it. I don't think we determine in the motion that we're gonna make a refund. I mean, because it may be a
Right.
carryover. So, I mean, I would make that motion that we explore this more and have a conversation with the county commission.
Absolutely.
And, possibly setting
Because
this
we,
an
I was
agenda
gonna say,
item
we
in 2
can
weeks.
set it up with the county.
So,
Absolutely.
you mentioned a while ago, Joe, now I got your name right, I'm calling him Joe. Stu, yeah, and I've been 12+ years, we've never voted on anything in public input.
Yeah,
Do we need to wait till non-consent agendas, or do we vote on that now, or?
I mean, legally, you can vote on it now if that's
You
what
can
you
make a motion whenever you want.
Throughout the session.
So what's the motion?
So the motion is to look into this further and work with the county, towards a resolution on what to do on the overage.
So, there's a couple other things. We're gonna have to try to find out if it's legally we can do this, right?
Right, that's all,
Yes.
package that all into that somehow. I don't, Henry, what's,
Yeah.
the motion could be as simple as just saying I move that we look into this further on what to do with the overage, of the.
So you're gonna make a motion to explore this with the county commission and to check with the state to see the legalities involved.
Yes.
Yes.
That's your motion?
That's my motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Let's do it this way, roll call.
Brooks,
Yes.
Height,
Yes.
Mansell,
Yes.
Perry,
Yes.
Sigley.
Yes.
All right.
Thanks for explaining, Joe. Take a Tylenol.
Thanks for coming, Joe.
Can I say just one thing? I'm sorry, I apologize, this night's been a long one. I don't have a silver bullet, but I do have a suggestion, and Darren, you can find this out. The state has the power to do so. On these tax exemptions that we have in the city of Pittsburgh is huge. I mean, there's a lot. The university has a lot, the hospitals, the churches, and it's just a lot of money. And with them going on, the taxpayers have to pick up the blunt of that. Now, from what I understand, the state can change the tax exempt where they pay like a third or 2/3 of their tax exempt, and 1/3 comes to us. And that, I think you can check on that if you would, please.
Can the state has a tax exemption that they would
The
get
tax,
2/3?
no, the state can control the tax, I mean, the money exemption they can give. We can't. And if the commission could, I'm sure they would. But like, if you
Oh,
got.
you're saying the state exempts the university 100%, can they do 2/3?
Yeah, yeah. Just reduce it down to where the citizens get part of that, because it's revenue loss. And the citizens of Pittsburgh have to pick that up. I mean, could you just check on that? You know,
Sure.
I'm not sure, but I think you can.
I'll check, Ralph.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
So, are there any other public input items that we need to talk about? Having seen none, let's move on into the consent agenda.
Mayor, can we take like a 5-minute
Yeah,
break?
why don't we do that?
Got a bathroom break maybe?
We're gonna be in recess for 5 minutes and, come back at
Thank you.
7:20.
I appreciate that.
Do we need a vote on that?
For a bathroom break? Okay, thank you.
It'll be unanimous.
the consent agenda excluding item B, item C, item F, and item G.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. The roll call vote?
Brooks.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
Mansell.
Yes.
Perry.
Yes.
Sigmund.
All right. Item B, approval of resolution number 1298, authorizing the city to enter into a lease purchase agreement with Clayton Holdings LLC for equipment to be used by the Public Works and Public Utilities Department in the amount of $1,326,433.49. Approved by the governing body on December 9th, 2025, and authorize the mayor and the city clerk to sign the resolution on behalf of the city. I know we approved that, Matt, but could you go through that and kind of explain what this is about again?
Really, it's an additional so we approved everything. We're entering a contract with Clayton Holdings for all that purchase of equipment, and really this is just another document that they've requested to have us initiate and execute to say that it's all approved. So
Nothing's changed.
We bid the financing.
yeah, we bid all the
So
financing.
this is awarded the
This
financing.
is part of the final contract document.
This actual resolution wasn't prepared at the time that you approved the bid at the last meeting, and so this is just a formal step that the bank needs in order to do the lease purchase agreement.
So if there's no other questions, I'll make a motion to approve item B.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Going to item C, approval of staff recommendation to enter into an agricultural land lease between Campbell Farms LLC and the city of Pittsburgh, in which Campbell Farms LLC released 90 acres of tillable land and grassland located at 4303 North Free Kings Highway in the amount of $5,250 for the term beginning February 27th, 2026 and concluding February 21st, 2027, and authorize the mayor to sign the lease on behalf of the city.
Yes, sir.
I spoke with you, Darren, on this one. I just had a couple follow-up questions, and that's why I asked to have it pulled. It's nothing crazy, just what was the initial purpose of this property for the city? Like, what is it?
Industrial park.
Industrial park to advance the city, to grow north? I mean, it's in the park, but
Yeah,
it's on the north side.
it's definitely north of the rest of the city.
Okay, and then the leasee are they actually farming it, doing processing and growing on it, or is it?
Yeah, he farms it. He has been doing it since I think the last 3 years, maybe 4. And it's a way to keep the property maintained so it doesn't just go to saplings and stuff. But yeah, he farms it and he pays us, $52.50.
I remember there was another agenda item that came up with this type of lease agreement for the airport, and I was just wanting to make sure that I had a good grasp on it, so.
Yeah, that's similar process. It's just land we own, and it just seems like if it's just sitting there, we might as well have somebody out there keeping an eye on it and making some money on it.
And if somebody else was interested in the same thing, we'd kind of go through the high bid on.
Yeah, I mean, it's only 5,000, so we don't bid it, but he approached us and he's done other work for us, so he's but yeah, if somebody came in and really made a fuss, we could probably have him compete if we needed to.
All right.
That's all I had.
Move to approve.
There's been a motion to approve, is there a second?
Move to approve C.
Second.
Second, all right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Pass. Item F, approval of the appointment of Blaze Main to a first 2-year term, and the reappointment of Kriana Mulkin, Darcy Schultz, Stephanie Watts to second 2-year terms as members of Downtown Advisory Board, effective immediately and to conclude on December 31st, 2027.
Yep. Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. We had a current board member request to vacate her position on the Downtown Advisory Board before her term was complete, which changed the agenda request for this evening. So that's why we're asking for a adjustment there. We will need to be updated to fill all board positions on the Downtown Advisory Board. We're needing to fill Michaela Crystal's unexpired term of the property owner on the board. In order to fill the open positions on the DAB, we would need to change the designation of 2 positions, and appoint and reappoint those that had applied to their designated positions on the board. So to clarify, Michaela Crystal, who's currently designated as the property owner on the Downtown Advisory Board, our Downtown Advisory Board has to have certain positions filled by property owners, a downtown resident, hospitality representative, a retail representative. So in order to fill those board positions, it gets a little difficult. So we not only had terms expiring, but we also had someone that wanted to vacate their position. So I've prepared the motion needed in order to fill all the positions on the Downtown Advisory Board, and I can read that to you. Motion would be to change the designation of the position on the Downtown Advisory Board vacated by Michaela Crystal from property owner to at-large, and to change the designation of the current DAB member, Stephanie Watts, from at-large to property owner, to appoint Jeff Brooks at-large to an unexpired term effective immediately and to expire on December 31st, 2026, to appoint Blaze Main, hospitality, to a first 2-year term, and to reappoint Triana Mulkin at-large, Darcy Schultz, downtown resident, and Stephanie Watts, property owner, to second 2-year terms effective immediately and to conclude on December 31st, 2027.
I'll make a motion to approve everything you just said.
Okay.
Second. Been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kim. Item G, approval of the appointment of Anthony Albertini to the first 3-year term and the reappointment of Elizabeth May Smith to a second 3-year term as member of the Land Bank Board of Trustees effective immediately and to conclude on December 31st, 2028.
The reason why I asked for that one to be pulled, solely just questions on previous practice and legality. So the person applying to be the legal representation as a non-city or Crawford County citizen, their home of record on their application shows and their work location shows Wichita, the Wichita area. Is that normal? Is there any conflict with having somebody that's not anywhere near the area to be on this type of a board?
No, and his intent is moving here, and he's working with the firm that Bill Wachter works for, who was our previous legal representative. As you can imagine, these positions are difficult to fill because they're very specific per position. So that's why Anthony had interest and plans to move here anyway, and is from St. Paul, Kansas. So he was willing to take on the role and come back for the meetings and be a part of it.
Okay. So his application said 3 to 5 years to move to the area was his plan. Anybody else have any concern about that much time frame? It seems
He wasn't an attorney, but they're so hard to find. It's, I mean, obviously our goal is to keep, if we had somebody that was local, that was competing for him, I'm sure we'd give it to the local person, but.
So he has 3 to 5 years to move here? Is that what you're saying?
No, his intent is to be here within 3 to 5 years. His intent is to move to this area. Works for the same firm, so.
Yeah, I just want some clarity on that. If there was any issues with him not being from the area and being on the board that oversees the land bank, it's kind of a big deal. So,
yeah.
You're comfortable with that?
Yeah, as long as, and he said he could make the meetings. We just need it as a legal representative sitting there helping us as an attorney. So that's helpful in the board decisions.
How often?
So guidance for that.
Meetings held?
Once a month.
So the land bank's tied to the city of Pittsburgh. Clearly, it's part of the process of getting rid of old properties that are condemned and need refreshed. So does that attorney speak with either the city attorneys at any faction to make sure things are the way they are, or is there anything you guys do jointly or with the previous one? Was
That board, Commissioner Perry, that is a very strange board. That board is set up by statute, so it's really not part, I mean, it is a city board, but it's very independent of the city. So I think.
So everything with the land bank separate from the rest
I think the land bank kind of, oh, go ahead, Henry.
I work with Kim when she needs assistance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now that you brought that up about the land bank, and that's how we're trying to generate funds of property that probably not paying property tax, or hasn't for a while, right? So
Yeah, I mean, that's one tool we have. I mean, we have sheriff sales, we have the land bank, which is gonna take a vacant property and put it into productive use, absolutely.
So what if a nonprofit buys a piece of property? So will that stay off the tax roll for whatever reason they need it?
I mean, if they turn it into a church or something like that, it would, but if they just build a house, unless it's Habitat for Humanity, I don't know which houses are,
Yeah, I mean, if they build a home on it and sell it to someone else,
it's gonna be.
then it goes.
It's gonna be untaxable.
Yeah.
So, and I've talked to you about this one, Kim, I can give you, no, I got a number from you. We tore a house down recently. I don't know if that went in the land bank. If it did, I told the property owner that had the issue with this being in such disrepair and homeless people living in there, and finally the city tore it down. They were interested in being able to purchase that piece of property adjoining their land. So, is a situation like that, will they possibly become the first, maybe person interested in we sell it to?
I think it depends on if that property was donated to the land bank. So if the property owner didn't choose to donate it to the land bank, then we wouldn't have really any say in that. If they wanted to buy it, they'd have to go to that property owner. So I guess that would be up to the
But if
owner.
it was donated to the land bank and then the land bank sells it, that's what I'm saying.
If it was donated to the land bank and that individual is interested in purchasing that parcel or that property, they would go through the appropriate procedure and then present to the board as to what their intent is for that property. Maybe they're expanding their home, maybe they want to build a garage, maybe they want to expand their yard, and then the board would then make the decision on whether to sell it to them or not.
Well, hopefully, if that's the case, and that's what they want it for, the board would give them priority if it's right next door, so.
Ideally, if it's a buildable lot, we'd like to see a home built on it. As we know, there's obviously a slight shortage there, so, but again, I can't speak for the board, so I don't want to speak for any of the board members, but we like to see a house built on a buildable lot if it's possible.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
Been moved and second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right, sorry. Thanks, Kim. All right. Consider the following. Quit claim deed. Debbie Brock is requesting that the city execute a quit claim deed so that she may close the sale of a currently undeveloped real estate in the city research park and development park. Addition that the city transferred to she and her husband in 2005. But retain a right to repurchase the real estate.
Yeah, Mayor, Commissioners, that's, in 2005, they developed that area. This is one section that they didn't develop. She was in the process of selling it to a commercial entity the other day and realized through title search that we still had a right of first refusal, so she came to us and Henry worked on the appropriate documents, and this would just clear off that for us so she can go ahead and sell it and get it into use. Right now, it's just a grassland by the railroad track.
The person that's purchasing, do we know who they are and what their intent is with the property?
No. I asked, but I got shut down.
Yeah.
So, is there any other questions? Is a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item B, Community Development Block Grant Project 23 PF 026 Time Extension Request. Consider staff request to submit a time extension request and contract amendment number 2 to Kansas Department of Commerce for Community Development Block Grant Project 23 PF 026 Washington School Child Care Project to explain the delay, closeout date, and to update the completion date.
Hello again. So we have done this before with this same project. We have asked for an extension prior to, due to the bid process and not being able to fill the needs for contractors to get the project done. The project is now complete, both buildings, so the historic building and then the addition. So that's the building that sits to the north of the historic building. The addition is what used CDBG funds, okay, so that's what the extension is being asked for. The primary reason we are asking for an extension when we would normally be closing this out or closing the grant out is because there are not any students occupying the building. And in order to close out, we are required to report on the 51% of the low to moderate income of those utilizing that building because we used grant funds. So to just briefly summarize, Washington School is open. Both buildings have a certificate of occupancy. The historic site, or the original Washington School, is being operated and does have enrollment, and students are there and teachers are there, and everything is going well. And Candy Rushing is here as our provider, and she'll speak to you about that in a moment. The other building is not occupied at this time because there's not a need for that based on the enrollment numbers. So I or the city cannot report on the people occupying that building and the students. I can't say if it's 51% LMI based on income range because there's no one using it yet. So we are asking the Department of Commerce, who's very supportive of this, for an extension of another 6 months so that we can start some enrollment this spring, get students occupying, and then we're able to report on it. So I will bring Candy Rushing up. She's here and has patiently waited this evening to visit with you all just a brief moment and tell you just a little bit about it, and then we'll answer any questions that you might have.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Candy Rushing. I own and operate Grow at Eden Early Learning Centers. I have 2 additional centers, one in Iola, Kansas, and one in Parsons, Kansas. This is our 3rd location. The location has 2 buildings. It's a very nice campus. Point Forward has done a wonderful job renovating the facility. A building that many saw needed to be torn down. There was a group that had a great vision for it. And now there's a lot of little young feet running around the halls and the rooms, and it's just a delight. The public has been very supportive. Businesses have been supported. Families are really excited about this opportunity. We do have 20 students enrolled right now. We have a lot of space. We have about 20 more joining in January. We have an open house tomorrow, 9 to 4. Come and go. Anyone can come and ring the doorbell and tour the space. We also have an additional tour open house day on the 22nd and the 26th this month. I've had a lot of requests from previous students that went to Washington School that want to come and tour, so we figured that the best way to do this is to just give the public an opportunity to come. We have a very safe and secure facility, so you do have to buzz the doorbell because you cannot just walk right in. We are a Montessori-based program, so we have a lot of play-based, hands-on activities and learning happening at our facilities. It is 100% teacher engaged. There are no screens. We feed children very healthy foods in a scratch kitchen where we make fresh marinara. We do not serve things like fried foods or quick, throw in the oven. Children of ages under 5 years old do not need that type of food. So as a kinesiology major, it's my mission to provide the child with a wholesome experience, and that is what we serve them and what they see and their experience during the day. We're very thankful to be in Pittsburgh. We were invited to come and operate this facility by Ron Skripczyk, and I'm very honored to be here in Crawford County. Do you have any questions for me?
Yeah, I have some, and
yeah.
I met you. You don't remember me. I was at the groundbreaking Washington School. I didn't remember you, but at the kickoff the other day, Kim and you came up and talking about this project. And I had some questions in, and you answered them. So I'm going to ask you basically the same question.
Sounds good.
So, and I got one more. What you said. You own facilities somewhere else.
Sure.
You're not going to own this one. You're going to lease it, right?
We are currently leasing it for 10 years with the opportunity of first right of refusal if it were to be sold after 10 years.
Okay. And I ask you, because I go by that twice a day in my school bus.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see much activity. You said you had 20 people and kids enrolled in Old Washington School.
Mm-hmm.
I asked you about the other building. Is it furnished? And you said?
Partially.
Partially.
Mm-hmm. And
why is it partially furnished?
Because furniture costs a lot of money. So we are working to seek additional grant funding or potentially take out a loan. And the board, my not-for-profit board, will decide how we handle those extra furnishings that we need. And so that is the reason that it's not fully furnished.
So then my next question is, a lot of money was spent privately and grant money. I don't know the total amount right now. But I'm thinking, and you still need further money to furnish that building.
Yes, the money was for construction. And the other money that was received through a Great Patterson grant that we received went for playground equipment that is going to be installed the second week of February, and artificial turf.
And then you also told me that you weren't going to open the other building and furnish the other building until you was at full capacity at Washington School. And that's why you needed a 6-month extension. And I asked, so in 6 months you're going to be full capacity? And your answer was?
Not in 6 months.
So I asked, then would you come back for another 6 months? And you're,
I will not wait until we're at full capacity to put children in the second building.
okay, so that's different than you told me at the meeting, that you would probably come back, or Kim, one of the two said, you'd probably come back and ask for another 6 months, and then possibly it might be 2 years before you met full capacity at Washington School.
Yeah, it could be 1 to 2 years. We're seeing an incredible growth in just this first month. Opening up during the holiday season is very difficult because families have a lot of time off from work. So we just saw such a slow enrollment period in November and December. But we are seeing, I gave a challenge to my team to bring in 20 families. We have an amazing referral program, and they've met the task and they're exceeding the task. So we may be full faster than I expect and anticipate. You have a wonderful community here in Crawford County. It took a little longer to fill my spaces in my other facilities. We have a lower population and maybe less commuters traveling in during the day. But it doesn't feasibly make financial sense to open a second building before we at least get more children, you know, for me to see sort of the growth and the growth projections and how quickly we grow. It's very difficult for me to tell you that, you know, in 6 months I will go ahead and open that building or will be ready to open that building. So I cannot put a definite answer on that for you, but I will not wait until we're full capacity to then open that second building. The addition does not have a kitchen. It does not have a gymnasium. It does not have offices. There will be a lot of shared use between the two facilities through a contract. But to move children over to a building right now after they've just started with us would not be responsible.
And then you told me that you'd have to hire staff for the new building. Will you be the licensed daycare provider for both?
Yes.
And I don't know the process of hiring staff, but that has to go along with sometime you make the decision, well, now we're going to start putting children in the second building. So you should have that, whatever staff you need already in place?
Very, very likely we would move staff and have staff potentially work at both locations, and move staff that we are training right now to be the directors of that building. I have 3 directors on staff right now, and so it's very likely that we could move one of those directors to be the director of the second building.
But you will be the sole
I am
licensed provider?
correct, yes,
Right.
yes.
And you told me one of the buildings are for-profit, one's not for-profit.
The historic building is a for-profit building, and the addition, the new building, is going to be a not-for-profit. And that is due to the tie of the CDBG funding.
And one more thing I told you. At the tour of Washington School, and I was because I was told there's a waiting list for people in your facility, and you told me that was not. So,
right.
You know, the need's there, definitely the need. It says, I don't know, we come up with 1,000 spots that's needed. Is that factual, or is that? So what I'm getting at is, there's other daycares. How do you come up with the children you need to fill? And the other building has to be, was it 51 or 56% LMI?
51% LMI.
51% LMI. So are you anticipate with the other options that you will have any problem filling your need?
No. So a twofold question there. With the LMI, I do not foresee any problems fulfilling that building with 51% LMI. Over 50% of my enrolled children are receiving Department of Children and Families subsidies at the Parsons facility, and it's in the neck of 75 to 80% in Iola. I don't foresee there being an issue with filling it with 51% LMI. About the filling it with children in general, the first 15 families were from homes that their parents were caring for them full time, and those children ranged from 1 year to 3.5 years old, and they were just never in childcare. The families just were able to afford staying home with them, and now they want to go back to work. So those were all full private paying families. And then there are families that are potentially out there that didn't have resources for their preschooler. I know the district looks for preschool spaces, and that's something we've talked, to the district before about is a potential long-term partnership with preschool spaces and figuring out how we meet the needs of the children that are not in school right now and preparing them for school. So I think there are a lot of children sitting out there that are not in places that are giving this high quality of an experience. And word of mouth is your best marketing. So if you'll tell everybody that we'll get 150 on a wait list.
We've granted an extension for construction. Understandable. We're going to grant maybe possibly extension for you to get children. And I was concerned with the other day, you said, somebody told me it could be up to 2 years. And I talked to Darren, we went through this CDGB before, and, that holds anybody else up, that if we don't, want to say, in a timely manner. So the one before, I'm not using it for you, but I know it was forever trying to get that done. But I'm glad you told me you have plans to start filling the other building before you're at capacity at Washington School. Because that's what I was told.
I understand my obligations, and I don't want to speak for CDBG, but I do believe that they have also notified the city that it's not going to hold you up from being able to open up another application. So with that knowledge, I still understand my responsibility to fill the building, but also I'm a business owner, and we want to make sure that we are taking care of the children, the families that we have brought in, and if that means caring for them all under one roof for right now, then we need to do that until we are all healthy and wholesome and we can expand out and move into that second building.
Well, you've answered my questions. I don't know.
I spoke with you too the other day, and I appreciate your input. I apologize, I don't remember what you told me on numbers. How many children are for each building?
We are licensed for 127 children in the historic building, and we have submitted to KDHE the possibility of having 133 children in the expanded building, which is a total of 260 children. We have our occupancy permit from Kansas State Fire Marshal, and the application is now complete with the occupancy letter, and then KDHE will come in probably within the next 2 weeks to give us our temporary license.
And then you were explaining, I'm sorry, I got a couple different questions. You were explaining that the south side, the historical building, is for-profit, and the other building with the non-kitchen is non-profit, and it's tied to that grant. That was the option to be able to expand and get that building, as opposed to having the extended space or having the buildings connected. We spoke on that, but
I don't know about the construction process or the phasing of connecting the buildings. I was not privy to those discussions in the beginning, but I do know that the CDBG Child Care Grant does state specifically that the provider needs to be a non-profit provider.
So that was the controlling reason for making the other half nonprofit.
Correct.
You said that to me, it was the first time I'd heard that.
Correct.
And we've been following this very closely for some time, so, okay. And you think, and again, the concern with the mayor, the 6-month window, looking at trying to get to that 51%, I asked you the other day too, what your efforts were to try to get those children in. And we keep hearing, I think for years, the city's been hearing there's a high demand for this, so networking obviously.
Yeah, I mean, you could have one classroom with 10 students in it, as long as 6 of them were LMI, then you would meet the requirement for CDBG. So, like I said, it's just a matter of us getting to a healthy point where we feel like that moving children or enrolling children in that building makes sense.
You said something in regards to older children being the focus moving forward that will help with that?
Yeah, absolutely. The facility is actually for 2.5 years old and up, so no infant and toddlers will be in that second building. So that building will prioritize older children above 2.5 years old.
You feel that market will be expanding faster than the younger kids?
About the same pace. Yeah, about the same pace. There are a lot of new moms with infants that really want to get in the facility, and I will be very responsible in bringing them in the pace that's best for my staff and who we have caring for those children and those infants. But I will say a very healthy new mom community here. So we are doing our best to get them back in the workforce.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Could you explain LMI for people who don't know?
Yeah, low to moderate income. Actually, Kim is probably the better.
No, I mean, low to moderate income, that's what I
Low to
wanted.
moderate income, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then why fill the south building first before the north building?
The south building was completed first, and so we were able to get licensing on that building first, and it has the kitchen, the laundry, all the common facilities. So it makes the second building, I wouldn't have been able, I'm still waiting on a temporary license from KDHE for the second building, so we wouldn't be here today with talking about enrolled children at all.
As far as the not-for-profit side and the profit side, that's the first I'd ever heard the split. I
Yeah.
always thought everything was not-for-profit.
No, I run both of my other businesses as for-profit businesses. It's the model that I know best, so I'd like to continue to use that model. And so the way it made sense for us was to just run them both as separate entities, so 100% separate. And they'll have some shared services, so there'll be some shared exchange of expense from using the kitchen and using the laundry facilities.
So when you talked about the Montessori, is that a separate license altogether?
No. Montessori is a philosophy, developed by Maria Montessori, and Montessori is very misunderstood. It actually was developed for children that were in the asylums that needed special care, had special needs, and Maria Montessori developed a hands-on play-based program that she saw children start to thrive in. And our mission is that we want to be as inclusive as possible. We don't want children to be omitted from care because they have high needs, behavioral issues, emotional regulation problems. So Montessori method and the way we prepare our environments and the classroom really helps children that do struggle in those areas of being able to regulate themselves. So we do a lot of practical life activities. That might be simply learning to care for a plant, pouring water from a glass pitcher to another glass jar. We use glass cutlery or glass plates, glass cups. And all of those things are to help teach a child really young how to care for something and how to be intentional, because that develops concentration skills. So we do a lot of practical life activities, especially when they're young. But it's the Montessori method is a whole philosophy in itself.
Sure. So, Kim, this is mainly something I need to ask you. No one else can apply for a CBDG grant until they're completed on the 51 LMI?
CDBG, Community Development Block Grant, has different types of grants you can apply for. So applying for another child care grant until this one's closed out, probably not likely. Applying for a community center grant or a different aspect, they would probably support that.
Okay,
so
that's what I wanted to know.
Yeah, so they have different categories, and if it's a larger category, we couldn't apply for two in 1 year anyway.
They're not
So
holding anybody else up.
I don't feel that would be from the Department of Commerce and conversations I've had. Again, we've had these discussions. Jenny Erdley, who we're sending the letter to, is fully aware that we're asking for an extension. They support that and they understand why. We just have to do the formality of asking for it from the city of Pittsburgh. So again, we're not in trouble. Everything's okay. It's just that I can't report on children that aren't there.
So why 6 months? Why not?
You can do a 6 month, last time we did a 4 month extension. You can do a 6 month extension. We didn't need to do a 12 month because I don't think it'll take that long. But again,
I just wondered where they came up with 6.
Sure. That SEKRPC, our grant administrators that we work with, suggested the 6 months because that was kind of safe in the mix when she was interested in taking enrollment in the spring. So that's our option. Our hopes are not to come back and ask for another extension, but I'm not going to guarantee tonight that we won't have to. I have to be able to report on that LMI in using CDBG funds. So that's just HUD rules. That's the rules we're going to follow because it was a lot of money and it's a wonderful facility that we needed. So
it seems funny, I think, like with what he said, it seems like, we were here from the very beginning, we've talked about this forever, that there wouldn't be enough money to do the things that you were talking about as far as the furniture and stuff on the other side. And I would think that there would, but you know.
I don't know the difference in costs between
Yeah.
regular childcare furniture and Montessori type of things.
Or,
but
not necessarily Montessori, but I meant just furnishing and getting it rolling and playground equipment and the whole 9 yards, so.
Yeah.
That's why I was just.
I would assume it's more expensive.
I guess it was more expensive.
Yes.
You know, and I asked for some upgrades to be made, like electrical outlet covers, the tamper-proof electrical outlets, so it was outfitted with just your basic electrical outlets throughout the building, and it's an upgrade to put tamper-proof ones in, but it's much safer for children.
Why wouldn't that have been on there anyway?
I wasn't part of the design process, so.
Yeah.
I don't
You
know.
would have thought it would have been.
Yeah, I mean, if you know you're gonna have kids there, that's a definite.
I'm
Yeah.
sure it's just a budget thing. You can put a plug in it. So the old school
You
way
go
is
back to that
put a
budget,
plug in
we
it,
know
but
that's a big budget for that thing, and how it didn't have enough money for what your needs are is mind-boggling.
well, it's beautifully done. It is fully sprinklered. There were some expenses that were very costly to get that building, you know, where it is today. But I promise you that long term, you're going to have a greater you're going to see the benefits in the next generation from having it.
I'm a big fan of the non-screen thing. That's awesome.
Any other questions?
Any other questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
Been moved by Stu, seconded by DJ. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Thank
Motion
you,
carries.
Candy,
Thank
thanks
you.
for
Thanks
coming
for
and
explaining.
sharing.
Yeah, thank you.
Where you at? Ordinance number S1113, consider approval of ordinance number S1113, amending ordinance number S1009, fixing the salary and compensation of officers and employees of the city of Pittsburg, Kansas.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. I brought this salary ordinance to you on December 9th. At that time, a lot of discussion was had and a motion was made to adjust some wording in Section 3. That has been done, and so I'm just bringing it back to you tonight.
So, you know, I've said this over a number of years, that when this happens, it does create a morale issue with other employees when we budget 2 or 3%, whatever it is, and then employees get raises on top of the 2 or 3%. Sometimes it's 9 to 12%, and it is a morale issue. So I've tried to get that changed and couldn't do it. But I did make a motion to amend this, and working with you and Henry, the wording you used was, I'm just gonna read the last part. City manager, this is section 3, city manager at reasonable interviews until the maximum amount is reached, and as may be allowed and paid from time to time as authorized by the city commission. I didn't like that wording. You said it was the same thing. I was told that I used that word, and it had to be the exact same words from the minutes of the meeting, and I did go back to the meeting and use it. I seen that I used those words. But, was speaking with Darren, I want those words changed, and evidently I can change those wording at this time, and I want that changed to, as authorized by the city commission. I want it changed to with consent of the city commission. That means, we talked a little bit, Kim, that you guys go through the process. Evidently, there's a board that, say, a department head has an employee that is worthy of a raise. And I'm not changing any of that, but at some point, I want to be able to hear what it is, not just me, but the commission. And we don't do that in regular meeting. We'd have to do that evidently when the executive session, we can't make decisions during the executive session. So we come back out. I don't know if we mention the name or just go ahead and approve the raise. I don't know how that works, but like I said.
Would you read that again the way you're going to have it?
Okay, the whole thing or just the portion I want to change?
Well, you gotta read the whole thing, because it's gonna require a motion.
Okay, I'll read the whole thing. And the whole ordinance or just the section of the ordinance?
The section of the
ordinance. All right. Just the section of the ordinance I want to change read, it has City manager authority. City manager hereby empowered to employ qualified people to fill any department head position at an annual salary at no more than the maximum amount allowed herein, and to employ qualified people to fill any position other than department head on an annual salary or hourly wage at no more than the maximum amount allowed herein. Employee salaries and wages may be increased by the city manager at reasonable interviews until the maximum amount is reached and as may be allowed and paid from time to time. And that's the part that I wanted to amend the ordinance and put the words in, let's see, where was that, the maximum, and be allowed to be paid from time to time, and I wanted to add with the consent of the city commission.
You wanted to change as
As
authorized by the city commission?
Yes, I didn't like that wording.
With consent of the,
With the consent of the city commission, not authorized,
With
authorized
consent.
gone, approval's gone, I want it to say, with the consent of the city commission.
so as authorized by, is, you want to take that out and put with consent of the city commission.
Any questions? What do we need a motion to, I'll make a motion to,
Right. So, can we make the motion to approve the ordinance as is with that change?
Correct.
So moved.
all right, still
Wait,
move, I
wait a
second
minute,
it.
explain that
Oh,
one more time. So-
So, I moved that we approve this ordinance as is, we approve this motion with the changes that the mayor wants changed, with the consent of the city commission, strike authorized by the city commission, and insert with the consent of the city
Okay.
commission.
Is that, Henry, is that okay?
That's permissible.
Yeah, second.
You second it, Deuce? Made a motion, there's a second, roll call vote.
Brooks.
Yes.
Height. Yes. Michelle.
Yes.
Perry.
Yes.
Sigley.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thanks, Tim. All right. Is there any non-agenda reports and requests? Moving into executive session. An executive session is necessary to discuss personal matters of non-elected personnel pursuant to KSA 754319B1, to discuss city manager 2026 goals and letter of agreement. Motion to recess into executive session for 30 minutes to discuss the city manager 2026 goals and letter of agreement pursuant to the non-elected personnel exception under KSA 754319B1, with the meeting to resume in the commission room in 30 minutes. Is there a motion to recess into executive session?
Make a motion to recess from executive
Second.
session.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We will recess. No decisions was made, no votes were cast, but we're needing additional time, so another executive session is necessary to discuss personal matters of non-elected personnel pursuant to KSA 754319B1, to discuss city manager's 2026 goals and letter agreement. Motion to recess an executive session for 30 minutes to discuss the city manager's 2026 goals and letter agreement pursuant to non-elected personnel except.
Mr. Mayor, I asked you to change it to 15 minutes.
Oh, yeah. Oh, did I say, yeah, scratch that. Motion to recess an executive session for 15 minutes to discuss the city manager's 2026 goals and letter of agreement pursuant to the non-elected personnel exception under KSA 754319B1 with the meeting to resume in the commission room in 15 minutes.
So moved.
Second.
We moved in second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are. back from executive session. No decisions were made, no votes were cast. I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.